I'd like to call to order our budget hearing for November 14th, 6:30 p.m. This is our second budget hearing for the 2020 budget. So we have a few department heads going this evening to present their budgets, but first we're going to start with public comment. If there's anyone from the public that would like to comment on any budget issue. The floor is open. We'll close it. So seeing no comment from the public, we're going to go over to our department heads. First up is Tara Griesok from the Senior Center.
Do you guys know each other?
There's talk.
Okay, so I'm going to be really quick because there's not too many changes. You already got your folders that have everything that I'm going to explain in there. First page explains the budget adjustments for from 2019 to 2020. I'm going to skip over the first one because that's the one I'm going to go into a little more explanation about. Cleaning supplies, obviously, over the past year, we've had some big increases with our attendance due to 3 of the major fitness/community centers closing in our area. We had Club for Life, the Penn Hills YMCA, and the Wilmerding YMCA close in the fall of, about a year ago, in the fall of last year. And we received a tremendous amount of those members at our center. So we've had to make some adjustments all around at our center to compensate for that. One being more use of cleaning supplies. So that, obviously, with a bigger attendance, requires more cleaning, which requires more supplies. So that's why it went up from $7,000 to $9,000. Office equipment kind of coincides with what our vision is for everything next year. A lot of it's going to be presented with when I present my capital budget. But we are, myself, my staff, and senior council have been working the past year to come up with a plan to change our front lobby and our front entrance for a lot of different reasons, but quickly. One is to secure it. Right now it's pretty open. Anyone can come in and go anywhere within the building without being questioned at all. So we want to make ours more like a typical community center or fitness facility where you come in the front door and you only get to a certain point where you have to be given permission to go beyond that point. One, it's obviously, like I said, for security. 2, it's for membership
Accountability.
access. A lot of our members, they're required to go to the front door or through this and scan their membership cards. One, so that we get reimbursed through Silver Sneakers. We don't get reimbursed if they don't scan their card. And a lot of them just don't see the need to do it, and there's no requirement. You can walk right by the desk, and if you want to choose to scan your card, you can, and if you don't feel like doing it that day, you don't have to. So by having it be to get to a certain point, you got to scan your card before you can go in, that also gives us a better count of who's coming in and also will get us more revenue on the Silver Sneaker sides of things because they're required to scan their card to go further.
Can I ask a question? What are you going to do about the side door?
Side doors are currently locked, so they can only gain entrance by scanning their membership card.
So that would give you the count you need if they come in the side door?
Technically, no.
That's what I
because there
thought.
are 2 different cards that they have to scan. One is the little white membership card that
Yes.
you have. That just clearly tracks our attendance, which we give to you. If a person has Silver Sneakers, they have an additional card that they have to scan. Once they come through those doors, at any one of the entrances, whether it's the front desk or the 2 side doors, there's an additional scanner once they come through the door that they're required to scan.
So it's already set up that way right now?
Yes,
Okay.
correct. So with the capital budget, we'll fix the side doors too, because we want to have cameras at every entrance so that those are monitored to make sure that they're scanning their cards. Because what's happening also at the side entrances are, you come in and you have 4 or 5 residents that owe dues, and you scan and let them all in.
Oh,
So we have a lot of issues besides the security on the membership side that we're trying to rectify with the changing of the entrance. Office furniture plays into that. When we redo the lobby, there'll be some things that we want to do minor until we do bigger projects. So it's not much, it's just $500 because it'll play with the part-time employee that I'm going to be addressing in a minute. Agricultural, we did a little maintenance to the outside this year. We ripped up a lot of the old shrubbery, and we had myrtle within all the flower beds. So that was part of what we used all of our money for this year. Next year, we want to address putting some stuff back into the beds that's low maintenance. So that's why I increased that a little bit. Okay, so getting to the major change in my budget this year is to add a part-time employee at our front desk. This is to be done before we even change the lobby, and that person would just continue on as we do that. Well, obviously, when we change the lobby the way that we want to do it, there's going to have to be a person there that if your card doesn't work or you're a new member, there's somebody there to address the issue. The other reason for that, us wanting that person there, is because of the increased attendance, we've had to increase our programming. So in this past year, me and Carol, our program coordinator, and Chris Gilbert, our fitness coordinator, we are not in the office as much as we used to be. You know, Carol may be in one room teaching a class, I may be in the big room with a social event, and Chris is teaching a class. So a lot of the times we're having to shut the office, and there's nobody there to help people that are new coming in that want to be members, signing people up for special events and programs. So this person would be totally dedicated to, one, making sure people are scanning their cards when they come through the front door, two, helping, sign new members up and taking program registrations and selling tickets to our events. That the times that we picked were the busiest times and the most of the time that we're not there. So it would be, that person would staff the front desk between 9 and 1, which are our heaviest, most populated times of the day. And those are the times that we find ourselves not being able to be in the office because we're outside doing our programming. It's the same scale as our evening supervisor. They basically will do the same thing that our evening supervisor does at night. So our evening supervisor does the exact same thing that the front desk monitor would do during the day. So the salary is the same, or the hourly rate is actually the same. It just calculates out a little differently because the hours are, the evening supervisor is 16 hours a week. The front desk monitor would be 20 hours a week. Twofold with this person is making sure people are scanning their Silver Sneakers card, which increases our revenue, which in turn will cover the cost of that person being there. When you go to the second page, it explains it out a little bit more in more detail as far as our total budget for part-time employees. There in that actual, you'll see what the salary is this year and what I'm asking for next year, and it breaks it down as to what employees are actually in that budget line. That includes our Silver Sneakers instructors, again, the evening building supervisor, and the front desk monitor. The next packet you have is our accomplishments. I won't get into, the nitty-gritty of that. You guys get a monthly newsletter. You get our, printouts of our accomplishments on a monthly basis, so you kind of already understand all of that. If you come to the center, you see the growth. Doesn't need to be explained. The one thing I do want to point out at the bottom, which is in red print, you can't miss it, is our revenue for Silver Sneakers. So this year, we projected that we were gonna make $30,000. As of September, we've already made $45,644. So we still have October, November, and December. On an average, we're making about $5,500 a month. So you can see where that's gonna average out. And you'll see that under the revenue side of my adjustments, I have increased the revenue for 2020 to kind of compensate for that. So, any questions?
How much money do you think, I think maybe we talked about this, Tara, how much money do you think or estimate we're losing?
Tim, they can't hear you.
How much money do you think we're losing with silver sneakers, the people coming in?
I would say, I try to catch them when they're coming through the door as well as all the employees do. It's kind of hard when you have over 5,000 members, which ones have silver sneakers and which ones don't. The instructors try to catch them coming into the rooms as well, but I would say probably half of them don't.
Half?
They don't, they don't want to go in their purse. They want to, oh, I left it in this car, or I don't have it today. So it's really, really important, not only for the safety of our building, but also for the membership base. You're losing a lot of revenue by just having the doors open. Obviously, the safety side is what we're most important,
And they're
our
not
most
even-
important issue.
They're not paying for silver sneakers. That's given to them through their health care.
Yes.
So it's not even costing them anything.
No,
but
it's just
the
being
revenue's
lazy.
being lost because they won't do their
It's
card.
being lazy.
Yeah.
So, they don't see the importance of it, they don't. Why do I have to do
Well,
that?
because they didn't pay for it. That's kind of probably why.
Well, technically, though, if you come in and you don't scan your card and you go take a class, you're basically
Cheating.
not paying.
Yes.
Right.
So
Sure.
basically, you are doing something that's not ethical when you go into the class and you don't scan your card. Because we get $3.25 to offset that, which in turn, as you can see from my part-time budget, pays for it.
Right.
So, we need a minimum of 8 to 9 people in each class to scan their cards to pay for the instructor. Now, on average, this year, we've had to add, sometimes between the hours of 9 and 11, we have 2 classes going on at a time. We have now made the shuffleboard court during the hours of 9 to noon an actual aerobics room. So we now have two classes going on one in the actual group exercise room and one on the shuffleboard court. So we have 2 classes, which on average have between 15 and 20 in each class. So you take that and you times it times 325. You got to think that, we've tried to catch. You can see that we're raising more money
Yes.
because we're trying to be more diligent about it, but it's also because of the attendance increase. But I can see that definitely
can go
increasing
up.
a lot.
I think what you need is a big silver sneaker at the front door.
You just,
remind people.
you
What do
can,
you
Put it in the
you
budget,
can sit
Tim.
there at the front desk and just laugh
Yeah,
all
You
day.
could probably buy one at a Nike
Yeah,
store.
doesn't matter. They know that 90% of them know that they're supposed to scan it, and they just don't. And then obviously you can see that with you can see the attendance there on the accomplishments. You can see the increase of it. You can see the increase of programs. That's where the safety thing comes with everything, because all of that, most of those people pay for things, and we do not, we take cash and credit card, or cash and check. We do not have a credit card machine at the senior center. Seniors don't want to get into that. So we have a lot of, program registration and a lot of stuff coming through our main office, and it's completely open. So we need to be conscious of that and start doing some changes so that you can't just come right in there. So that's the other thing with it.
Two just quick comments, Tara, too. One, I think you sound like you're on the right track, essentially. It's not the way you designed it, but
Right.
the analogy of, a health club entrance pass or register is probably a very good
Well, when I first came there, I went over there in 2006, so 12 years ago. It was not what it was today.
Right.
It was, you had a few social clubs and a bingo.
Right.
You didn't have all this programming, you didn't have a fitness facility, you didn't have silver sneakers, everything, there was not a non-resident fee, there was not even a card to scan. People just walked in. So when I went over there, I was like, well, I don't even know if something happens to you medically, I don't know who you are. So that's when we installed the membership software and started tracking who people were, and it just kind of obviously progressed to basically be a community center for adults. So obviously, that wasn't a concern when the lobby was made what it was, because there was no money involved in it. There was no keeping track of what the attendance was. There
That
was no
sounds-
purpose
it's-
for
Yeah,
it.
that sounds like that's right on top of that, too. And I know, I think you had a follow-up, too, where you talked about some of the additional, for lack of a better term, security measures that you're
Yeah.
looking to improve with, too. So
Right.
by all means, based on some of the information we've talked about
Right.
in the past.
And you'll see, like, in the capital budget, like, have it,
Terrific.
phased out through the capital budget, and I'll get into more detail as to, like, what we would like to do with it and how we want to address it.
Yeah, and there's
Obviously,
some-
we want your input,
Yeah,
as
there's
well
some
as
consistent recommendations
Doug's.
with that, too, across the board with it as well. And also some of the things about the landscaping, too. I don't know if you saw that part yet, so we'll share that with you as soon as we can.
Which you may want to take into consideration
Consideration.
with what you're doing with your landscaping.
Oh, yeah, I'm not putting any bushes or shrubs. Don't worry about that.
Yeah.
Hostas.
Good enough.
Little
Yeah.
things like
Okay.
flowers.
Yeah.
Nothing I have
The
to
low
trim,
stuff, yeah.
low
You're
maintenance.
you're on the
Low
same
maintenance,
page, thank
yes.
you, great. So good luck to
All
you,
right,
thank you.
thank you very much.
Nice
Thank
job
you.
with the red, thank you.
I had a question.
We're on oh, I'm sorry.
we're
did you-
on.
Ron, Ron,
Ron,
sorry.
Ron has a
Ron.
question.
I'm
Don't
sorry.
run yet. Tara.
What?
I'm
Ron?
sorry.
Mr. Harvey has a question.
I just was looking on page 95 of your budget, and 2400 was OPEB annual contribution, so you went from 55,701 last year to zero. Why'd that happen?
No,
Everyone's-
55 is the total of all the revenue?
No, no.
that's-
He has OPEB question. That's on.
Oh,
Yeah, that's on,
That,
That's
that's
on all- we put
accounting
that.
entries. That, what happens
Here,
is,
too, yeah.
as we go through the year, we pay the retiree benefits, healthcare benefits, and then at the end of the year, when the auditor comes in, he accumulates all that, makes one big entry, and takes it against our OPEB receivable that we have from the OPEB trust. And so then that expense just gets moved to the OPEB contribution, because that's when we actually make the contribution at the end of the year.
So, but it still came out of their budget, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
It does come out of her
Yes.
budget.
that's what a lot of people don't understand about my budget. When they look at the total of my budget, a lot of the community kind of question why the senior center budget is what it is. Well, I have, I think, 4 or 5 retired employees that come out of that budget. So that's technically not the total cost of what the operational budget is of the senior center.
It's not operational, but
Yeah,
it
but-
is budget cost.
And-
Yes,
correct
right,
me
but
if
it's
I'm
not
Yeah, but-
operational.
right.
There, I mean, well, some of it is, but like 100,000 probably of that is retirement,
Yeah.
retirement expenses,
And
not
the OPEB
operation.
contribution, Josie, is distributed across the departments.
It's, yes, it's a,
Or
it's
Okay, so
distributed
where it
that's-
belongs.
based upon,
Yeah.
based upon what department they worked in when they were here.
Right. Because I don't think they were before all put in the right departments, were they, Josie?
They were, and I always wondered why they wouldn't be put
Yeah,
as just a
and Josie's
retiree.
kind of like moved everything where it actually belongs.
Well, yeah, it's kind of a false impression
Right,
on
it's
the, on
hard.
the budget, because this is an operating budget, and, well, at least I think it is.
Well, that's how people think it is, but it is, plus there's also expenses
Expenses
to
for their
the
retirement.
employees that you have.
Right.
And every employee is different. Some get health care, some don't.
Right.
Some get retirement, some.
But that's every
But I get
department
it.
now, right, Josie?
Absolutely,
They're finally,
it's every-
everyone's where it's supposed to be.
But that would
every
be,
part.
that would be something maybe for council to consider as far as, maybe it's not this budget, because it might be too much work, maybe for the following year, you have like a retiree section. That way, that even the public understands, okay, this is how much we're paying in retiree benefits. And that way it gives a truer picture for the operational budgets for all the other departments.
Does all
But that's
Is
an,
Retiree-
that's-
Josie shooting herself over there?
benefits
no.
come out of either OPEB or the police pension fund, or is it?
Yes.
Do we pay municipal tax money towards that?
Yes.
We
Yeah.
do. I think that's what should be split apart, I think.
That way we have a clear, because if there was one of these departments who ever like maybe shut down, let's say.
Right,
You
well,
pick, you
that-
pick a department that gets shut
Shut
down,
down, or it-
there's still gonna be those costs there, so where do those go?
Right.
So they should be separated out to begin with. That way we have a true picture of
But
each of
could
the
do-
different departments.
Well, you could probably still
do
put
that. We
the
could do
department.
subtotals.
Sub, yeah.
You
that
You
way
could still have like a
still
retirement budget
yeah.
and then section out
section
senior
it out
center.
to, yes.
it's an auditing question. more
I don't know about this year if we could do the subtotals.
No, he's-
but
we're
going
saying next
forward
year.
Next year.
Yeah.
Next year,
Yeah, don't, no,
Yeah.
so,
Good.
Yeah.
thank you.
thanks.
Thanks, Tara, great job. Josie, we'll keep you here. I mean, if you want
Oh,
to,
that's fine.
Even if it's
Yeah,
just for
I'm
our
good.
knowledge.
you can present, want to present from there, you want to present from up here?
Doesn't matter. Can everybody
Rosie's
hear
got
me?
her chair.
can hear
We're
you.
used to her in her
Actually, you
chair.
know what? I don't know if we have a camera issue.
All right.
Sorry.
We're okay, Mayor.
Yeah, we're good?
Yeah, we're good. If she wants to stay there, she's fine.
Have a seat, Josie, we'll get a camera on
you.
you.
Yeehaw.
All right. I'm going to make this quick.
I'm gonna go up there.
Yeah.
Feel free to hit
You
Mr.
will.
Hugus, Mrs. Rogg.
Finance in general is a department that in any company they don't want to pay for, but it's a department that you need to have. If you look at the first page of what I gave you, I have all the revenues that aren't necessarily a part of the finance department. In fact, really none of them are, but that's just the way that things have been set up, and maybe that's another thing that we might want to change. But regardless, everything that's marked with an A is shared revenue that comes from either the Commonwealth or the county.
Like here, yeah, right. Right.
So speaking of controllable, we really don't have any control over those numbers. The other thing I want to point out is if you look at the other state grants, fire relief, that's the fire department money. And maybe next year it should be moved over to our fire suppression department.
That just
Because
passes
that
through,
money-
right, Josie? That just
It's a
passes through.
pass-through.
Yeah, we're just
Yeah.
the fiduciary
Yes.
for
It's a
it.
pass-through, so
Right,
it
okay.
really, it's not spendable money to
Right.
us.
Right.
So if you take that away, it's instead of having 3.3 million, we're down to 3.1
Yeah,
and some change.
okay.
That's really about all I have to say for that. I have, on the second page, a pie chart that shows that most of your money is coming from the state and the county. That 950,000 is your regional assets district tax, which is based upon the sales tax in the county. And the Act 205 funding offsets our pension costs. And again, that comes from the state.
To that point for just a I'm sorry to interrupt you for a second.
I'm sorry,
Josie.
go ahead.
Yeah, on the RAD tax information too, because that's also gets split off a couple different ways. One of that's property relief to, I've been learning all this lately, that comes back to us, directly to Monroeville. And the other piece of it is that's also the funding that goes to the library operation.
Right, but,
It all
This
comes
is
in one
only-
chunk, yeah, it comes in
Right.
one chunk to us, yeah.
well, no, the part that we're getting just comes to us.
Oh,
Library
this is
might
the,
go
oh,
on
you
their
didn't
own.
have that in there? Okay, so this is just our property.
Separate, yeah.
Correct.
Excellent.
That Libraries comes to them separately.
Right, it does too, okay.
So Josie, that 950,000, the regional assets from the 1% Allegheny tax, sales tax,
Yes,
And our
how
property.
do they determine 950?
they have a chart.
Is it based
They
on
have a little.
population or?
I don't recall. I know
Property
I
relief, it's more
figured out. I can get back to you.
It's more of a curiosity.
Yeah, I can get back to you. It's easy enough. I can just go on their website and it shows you how they do the calculation.
Thanks.
Okay. Okay, and then I just threw a trend in there, based upon our total revenues. I am not certain why 17 and 18 had high money. It might have had something to do with real estate transfers, because that can fluctuate greatly. And I believe in 18, the mall, was it the mall, Monroeville Mall, that was sold, and that was a bit of money that we got from that.
Miracle.
Miracle Mile.
Miracle Mile, I'm
Westinghouse.
sorry, mall.
Well, yeah, the Miracle Mile.
And the Miracle Mile.
I'm not a shopper, they're all the same. All right, and then, but then, you know, for 19, then they're down a good bit, but a little bit
Helps.
up from 16, and so it looks like probably about 3,300 is what we can expect coming into 20.
Down to 3.3.
The next page,
$750,000.
I forgot to tell you, that was, revenue was page 26. Your expenditures, if you want to look at it in the book, is on 21. But what you have in front of you is a copy of what's in the book, but I split it out based on controllable and non-controllable costs. Everything in the top part is salary and benefits. And let me clarify, when I say controllable, I mean, I don't control that because I don't set the wages. So, and everything else that's in there is based upon, you know, goes hand in hand with the wages. So that kind of remains fairly steady throughout the years, and you'll see on my trend, but I combine all expenditures on my trend. I want to point out that retiree health insurance is 10% of the total salary and benefits for finance alone. And I believe we've talked before about that's a pretty big number when you take it from the municipality as a whole. Down to the controllable expense, the auditing and accounting services is the first on the list. I want to point out that since I came, I've brought the auditing costs down by about $10,000 from what it was. If you look at, I had to pencil these in because I realized that the bank fees were included with auditing fees for 16 and 17. Then when I came, I split that out so it would be a little more transparent. But our auditing fees were $36,000 in 2016. For 2019, it says 23 there, but we had an additional 2,500 for a grant audit. So that was actually 26,000. What else did I need to tell you?
Lucy, why'd the contract services fees go up so much?
That's our software. And actually 15,000 in the 2019 budget. That was a miscommunication between IT and my department. When we did the budget, and I guess that Roy wasn't caught, I was under the impression that IT maintained that because they maintain the computers.
Oh.
But as you can see, the trend, we go, you know, it's 68, 68, 89.
89 is the actual for this year to date. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
So really, it being at 72 for 20 revised is not,
Well, we did a lot of upgrades that we're not going to have next
yeah.
year.
Okay, so it's not crazy it actually has gone down from the actual of this year.
Correct.
Okay,
So if you look at the revised budget for
Okay, so-
19, it just, that's a bad number in it, the
Okay.
15,000.
that's what threw us.
So, any other questions on that? Okay, then I just gave you another picture to look at. This is all of the expenditures. So when you combine all the expenditures, that contract service fee isn't as bad when you look at it in respect to health insurance and retiree health insurance and salary. So that's where the bulk of the money's going. The last page is the expenditure trend. We went from 750,000, and I believe that was due to some extra health care and extra wages. So from 16, 17, 18, and I don't have 19 in here. But I think the 674 that we're looking at for expenditures is a good amount. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Good. Any other questions for Josie?
Right?
Good, nice job.
Thanks.
Next up, the fire chiefs.
Papers, we need papers.
You guys want to all come up? You can.
That's good.
Gentlemen, if you could just identify yourselves for the record, that'd be great.
I'm Chief Scott Faze from Fire Company Number 4.
Chief Scott Bell, Monroeville number 1.
Deputy Chief Michael Coleman from number 5.
Welcome, guys.
Thank you. Good evening, members of council, Mayor Griesbach, Manager Little, and all other municipal officials here this evening. Thank you for allowing us to participate in the 2020 budget hearing. The Monroeville Fire Chiefs Committee has met and agreed on the budget expenditure detail for fire suppression and ambulance service for the municipality of Monroeville is indicated in the documents in front of you. I believe you have some of our documents already. You have the 2020 budget expenditure detail in front of you to go over?
What page number is that?
42.
Yeah,
43.
43 and 49, actually.
Not 45. 43, 49.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we'll start with
49,
page 43, fire suppression.
Okay.
So some minor changes to our operational budget for 2020 are just basically inflation charges. We raised, we added $1,000 to our hose testing fees because, you know, inflation, we have to pay to have that stuff done. It has to be done by an accredited, approved company to do that. So we're consistent with that every year. So we raised that only $1,000. Our repairs and maintenance budget, it seems to keep going up, you know, as some equipment becomes a little older, we do replace that. However, as some of the equipment becomes older, sometimes it costs a little more to maintain it. So that's why the increase there. The fuel went up very minimally, $700, and we did add some about $2,200 to the tire line item for 2020. So the total increase for the fire suppression budget for 2020 that we're proposing is approximately $14,000, which
And this is for all the departments,
this
right?
is for
This
this is for
five
all
firehouse
5
system.
fire companies. That's correct.
Thank you.
Yes.
Now, do you divide it up equally amongst the 5 of you, or how do you figure out who?
Well,
Is that where the fight begins?
First
that
come,
is
first served?
a task that is just
Who could
I assume
Fast.
impossible.
that maybe some
I mean-
buildings are bigger than others, some have more overhead.
Basically, for this kind of budget, basically, if you look at all the line items, that's the amount of money that we need as a whole department to operate for the year.
Yeah, so I
So-
mean, when it comes to maintenance,
Yeah.
you know, if one of
Yeah.
my trucks, it starts tallying out of the, you know, so when it gets to the, you know, when his truck might go over for, whether it's an inspection, service, tires, you know, he gets deducted from it. So there is really no allotment specifically to any, we don't have it subdivided between departments so that you have this much and you have this much. You know, it seems to,
So when stuff comes up and the receipts come in or invoices come in, it just all comes out
yeah.
of.
Right,
It
right,
seems to
yeah.
never been a
It's-
problem
it's-
thus
yeah.
far. It's always worked out to where you get to the end of the year and, you know, almost everything we do, majority-wise, you know, is handled through the municipal garage.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, they're able to tell
I
us.
suspect
it
since
does.
the hiring of the new mechanics,
There'll be even more.
trucks won't go out as often and
Yes.
save expenses by doing it in-house.
It's been a huge, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but it's been great
Positive.
having
Well, we've
those,
talked about
yeah.
it for the last couple of years,
Right.
that if we could get another heavy-duty mechanic down there, it
Well,
would
the
help out you
turnaround's
guys
been
as
phenomenal.
well.
I mean, you know, just the stupidest of maintenance. I mean,
Yeah.
just general maintenance, oil changes, you know, the stuff that happens, whether it's just during your inspection time or biannually. Boom, you know, you're doing a one-day turnover.
Right.
Versus, you know, 3-4 days.
Well, and then you don't have to have
service.
something out of service that,
Correct.
you know, then you gotta cover for each other and, or whatever.
And
It
just,
can be
just to
strong.
add for the record, because I know the answer to the question, but, so just so everyone has an understanding of what's the size of the fleet that we're talking about. So
How
everyone
many
understands
vehicles is what he said?
Well,
Start doing the math.
Sure,
Company
30
4 has 9 pieces of
should be
apparatus.
32, I think.
Number 1 has
5.
6.
Well,
5 or
6,
6.
7, including the chief's vehicle, so.
Don't make me take my shoes off.
Yeah, I know,
You
that's what-
count.
You have, Company 5 has 8. Company 6 has 9.
24,
And Company 3 has
33,
a pumper, a mini,
435,
Man, yeah.
command
36,
unit,
And the utility,
and their
27.
utility and their chief's car.
38.
5. They have 5.
So I think I counted
It's almost
38.
40. It's almost 40 pieces of
Yeah.
apparatus that the municipality maintains for us.
Well, not only with this Adam Mechanics, it helping out you guys, but it's also helping out the whole municipality.
Oh, yeah, sure.
With the garbage trucks and everything
yeah.
else, so I
We
think.
mostly see it on our,
But you can
through our
deduct
eyes.
9 vehicles from that because this is just the fire.
Fire.
Right,
this is
yeah,
the
yeah.
fire side of it.
That includes all the ambulances. There's
And then
9
we are
ambulances.
yeah.
There's 9 advanced life support ambulances that we operate as well.
right.
And that kind of falls under the ambulance,
Right,
the budget, not the fire.
but I'm glad to hear you guys
30,
saying that the
30 or
mechanics
31.
helping you out.
Yeah.
Good,
I don't think people understand the exact size, of it,
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
how large it is.
they don't.
So
Okay.
any further questions on the fire suppression budget,
Not for me.
operation budget?
Just being a straight man into the next,
Yep,
Budget.
okay. We will now discuss on page 49, the ambulance service operation budget. So, this was another minimal cost, but I'll get to something additional than this. So, again, with repair and maintenance line item, we had to raise that $2,000 for just the maintenance and wear and tear on the ambulances and to get those fixed throughout the year. We deleted the contract service fees line item, which was budgeted last year for $3,000. We have no reason for that, so that line item is deleted. So $3,000 is being taken away from the operational budget for that line item. So we really don't have any contract service fees for EMS in town, so.
Yeah, the stretcher repair would be the only thing that would fall under it. And some of those. But for whatever reason, it wasn't
Yeah.
drawn out.
Yeah. Okay.
so you need to make sure it's correct then for the structure
We
maintenance.
will need to make sure that's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
You're gonna, you have to back check that one?
Yeah, so what
Yeah.
we have, all our stretchers, one of the things we went to within the last few years in Monroeville, being that we've kind of been 4 different EMS stations, with our ambulances, we've all really band together over the, last several years, but making sure that our equipment is the same. So that if my ambulance, example, a few years ago, we had that vehicle into the creek down off of Thompson
Yeah.
Run Road. So we had 8 out of our 9 EMS units on scene. And what we were doing in that example, we were literally taking stretchers out of trucks, and it didn't matter what stretcher went into another truck. We were just literally shuttling patients back and forth. So his ambulance would pull up, I would take his stretcher out and load a
Throw it
patient in.
another- Okay,
So all our stretchers are made by the same manufacturer. And they're all relatively the same age-ish, within a few years or so. But we have a maintenance agreement with those stretchers so that they're maintained.
okay,
These stretchers are costing, in excess of $20,000 now, just for the stretcher itself. So
Right.
we're keeping up on the maintenance on these things so that, they're
They
not a problem for us when
Right.
you need them.
Right.
They're hydraulic operated, they require a battery lifting system and
Okay.
whatnot. So they're way more complex than they used to be 20 years ago.
right.
So that agreement that we have for that service is so.
So
that
you
they
don't
can-
know if that's not in here under the contract then?
Yeah.
That should be under there.
It's under the revised night, yeah, it
I
should
didn't
be the
realize
20.
that was coming out of that line item.
Yeah, well,
Because it was
we missed it.
removed. It was removed, so,
So you may need to add that back in then.
we,
Yeah.
we may need to.
yeah.
What does it cost them to do the yearly inspection, do you know?
I do not know off the top of my head.
But we might want to add
We
that
can find
back
out.
in.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Fi-
okay.
find that
I
shit to
can,
maintain.
I can find out that information and let you know. Who do I let know? Mr. Little?
Tim.
Okay. I will-
Everybody
I will-
points down there.
I will let Mr. Little know tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay.
And the,
'Cause-
the repair, I'm sorry to cut you, off, the automobile repair and maintenance, that figure,
Yeah.
so, as we mentioned, we're doing it in-house with.
Yeah, well, that's why that number is relatively low
That's
for
just-
9 ambulances.
Okay, that's
Because it's labor for your, in case we would maybe have to send a piece of apparatus out.
Okay, so that's more
Yeah.
if you're outsourcing.
Yeah, right,
You're not,
yeah.
you're not buying
Yeah,
parts.
right.
that we're
Well,
putting on.
there is actually a line item for parts there, motor vehicle parts, and that's what's,
The mechanics, when
Mechanics.
they need a part for an ambulance, it comes out of that.
Yeah.
That's what I was trying to get
Right,
at.
yeah.
But as far as the repair and maintenance, that's just if you actually send a vehicle out, because we're
Yeah.
covering that in
A
public works.
lot
Right,
of that gets done
exactly.
in-house.
Yeah.
Okay.
But there's also a specialty component of that occasionally associated with the ambulance units.
Yeah, there are
themselves,
times
the
they have to go
parts.
back to their
yeah, they have to go to the
builder.
To the
dealership
dealership.
That's
for,
understandable.
for maintenance work, and most of the time, if they're newer, obviously, they're going there for, warranty work, so.
Okay, I only have a question as to, the gasoline only went up $700 on all the fire trucks, but $10,000 on the 9 ambulances.
Figure out the
Well,
mileage.
I have
Is
a,
that,
Says
I have a good
there's
explanation
no
for that.
mileage written down, sir.
Yeah.
ambulances go
Here-
to
here's-
Pittsburgh
I-
every day.
Here's the explanation for that. Our call volume for EMS has gone up 64% in the last 5 years.
Wow.
We went from running around 4,000 calls up to over this year, we're gonna probably cap out at 7,400 calls,
Wow.
EMS calls this year in this municipality. So that's why there was an increase, that even in years past, we've seen the gasoline, oil, and lubricants line item go up over the past couple years for that reason, because our call volume is ever increasing. And it's just
Okay.
a necessity for the.
No, but that
for the-
needs to be
yeah.
explained to
Right.
everybody, that amount of calls is what's happening, because people don't understand,
Right, yeah.
you know? So, and there's a lot of people out there to be thankful that you guys actually run that many calls.
And that also includes lubricants.
Yeah.
That's not just
Yeah,
a fuel.
Just fuel, that's
Yeah.
oil and hydraulics and stuff that you
Okay.
need for anything like that. So, the next line item, we just increased the tires about $500, just because, the ambulance tires obviously get used more than fire truck tires. They're getting replaced more often. We're putting more mileage on the ambulances, so that's why that went up a bit. And probably our biggest request for the operational budget line item is a document that you were handed that says Monroeville Fire Department Budget Change Proposal.
Hold on. We're just getting them.
Okay,
It's just in.
yeah.
Is that one?
I didn't get one. You got them all
No,
right?
they're coming. None of us got them.
So this proposal that we're bringing you, basically, if you look at the chart up top indicates our call volume from 2005 to 2018. Obviously, we didn't put 2019 in there because we don't have that final number, but we're projecting about 7,400. So it's going to even go up higher than the 2018 number. Pardon me. So that there you can see that's our call volume that has increased over the years.
Hasn't gone down.
Yeah. So if you look down at the grid where it says current Monroeville ambulance contribution and proposed increase, in the column that says current budget ambulance contribution, this is a line item on the ambulance service operational budget is ambulance contributions. It's the last line on the budget. The contribution has been $35,000 for essentially 8 ambulances, but this year because of our call volume, we've added another ambulance to the fleet for Company 6, and that brought us to 9. So, the contributions for the ambulance service were only 35,000.
Well, 5,000 apiece.
Yeah, basically, yes.
And
That's
that
what-
ambulance that was added was bought by the fire department
Yeah,
itself,
oh,
correctly?
sure he is.
So
All
that-
the,
all the
ambulances
Yeah.
in the entire
Everyone needs to
municipality
know that, understand that.
are bought by the individual companies
Mm-hmm.
themselves.
Yeah.
So we're proposing that number, we're proposing an increase up to $185,000 annually for ambulance contributions.
So what's the contribution? Like, what's it? For?
It's just for for us to provide EMS, essentially, to the
buy
municipality.
equipment,
And to buy equipment and-
Because, like Scott said, it costs $20,000 to buy a stretcher, aside from the ambulances. The cost up to,
Go ahead, say it.
I think, our last ambulance that we
It's
bought
$225,000.
cost us $260,000 for one ambulance. You know, that's.
And this money is for the stuff that you need to go in it, like apparatuses, that, like
Yeah,
you said, the
exactly,
stretchers
yeah,
and.
stretchers, equipment
Yeah.
to keep
Scott,
us
you mentioned the
certified.
$20,000. How much is the load system?
Oh, the load system is, all in all, if you buy the stretcher and the load system together, it's $60,000
Wow.
for just the stretcher and the load system in there. And obviously, the load system helps our personnel to not get hurt.
Well,
Because
yeah.
we're lifting very heavy people into the ambulance, and this load system does that work for us. So we're pulling back on the workers' comp for EMS personnel getting injured. So, I mean, you spend a little more money, and in the long run, you're spending less.
Right.
Yeah, especially from a workers' comp standpoint.
How much equipment would you say is in one ambulance?
Oh, my gosh.
With the
I
trucks
know you're
being-
gonna have to ballpark it.
Yeah.
With the trucks being pushing over 200,000
Yeah.
now, I mean, that's,
Yeah.
that's the bulk of your
Yeah.
price, obviously, but, you know. the equipment
Cardiac
is-
monitors, $30,000. Stretchers, $20,000. The
Pulse
load
oxes.
system, pulse oxes are about $1,000. You know, and we've it's all the immobilization equipment we have to buy. I mean, for me to go through all the equipment that we keep in an ambulance
Right.
is nearly impossible
The
because
bags
there's
that
just
you
so
carry into
much.
somebody's house with your
Yeah.
medical equipment
Right.
are a couple $100 a piece.
Yeah.
just
What
for bags.
happens if you were on an ambulance call like the one you referred to on Pitcairn Road and some of this stuff gets broken?
Well, if it gets broken, we just have to throw it
pays-
away and replace it.
who pays for that?
And we pay for it out of our pocket. Yeah.
That's paid for by the volunteer firemen.
Yeah.
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 So the figures here, so if I'm looking, and I can ties into my very first question about how you guys divvy it up.
Yeah.
So if I'm looking, station one, it's 3 times the amount, so from 10,000 to 30,000.
Yeah.
Whereas station 4 is getting 6 times the amount,
They have 3 ambulances.
10,000 to 60,000.
Yeah, we have a third ambulance that we operate in our station.
Oh, so this is a
Yeah.
per ambulance,
Yeah,
is what you're saying?
essentially it is.
What you're asking.
It doesn't come out exactly, but I think when we built this, we kind of built it like, according to how each company provides EMS service and in the amount of service they provide in the municipality, according to their district.
So,
And the call volumes vary between the stations.
so in the past, if the chief, Station 1, requested his budget allotment for his ambulances, he would get $10,000.
Yeah, in the past.
$5,000 per unit.
Yeah,
Correct.
It was 5,000 per unit before.
unit.
yes.
Yeah.
And I think that,
For all eight
Yeah.
apparat, or 8 or 9.
Yeah, everybody
Yes,
gets
Yeah,
exactly.
everyone
For 8
gets
ambulances, it was
5,000 per
5,000.
ambulance.
Because
If
this
you had-
year,
Number 4 had 3 of them, and
well, we've only had 2 of our ambulances in this allotment, because we were only getting 10,000 before.
But you've added a third
We-
one, you
we-
said.
well,
Yeah,
no,
well,
there's
that-
been a,
That was the third one was added many, many
Over
years
6
ago.
past.
That was before my
Oh.
regime.
But
That
there
was
was-
back in the Bob Ratcher days of
Oh,
Company
okay.
4.
But
And,
you've never gotten the
Harold
other
can
5,000?
explain it.
yeah, Harold. yeah.
Wait a second, you never got
No.
the additional
No, because
monies
we,
for the
we,
third?
we never brought a proposal in front of you for
Oh.
that. So, we've looked at this and we've seen the need for an increase in ambulance contribution.
Right.
We haven't asked for one since probably the early 90s.
Yeah,
So now we're in the, I mean,
2005.
oh, is that the last time we?
Well, we looked back on the records when we
Yeah.
requested about this and that couldn't find anything earlier than that, but I don't think it's ever been.
So in
Yeah.
15 years, essentially, the same amount of money has been in place.
Right.
When 15 years ago, an ambulance would have been roughly, barely $100,000.
There's 3 old fire chiefs sitting in here
Yeah.
today.
So-
Now, do you ever remember an increase in that?
I can tell you that I started doing the budget in 2000, and it was at 5,000 in 2000.
Harold, do you
Wow.
remember any?
Well, and you're
They
just
can't
telling us there's been a 106% increase in EMS call-outs since 2005.
Yeah.
And there's never been a request for an increase.
Right, essentially.
So,
Gotcha.
so number one has how many ambulance?
Two.
Two.
And 3 has how many?
3 has none. They don't provide EMS service.
So number 3 doesn't get,
No.
they're not in this.
They're not
budget.
even
They
on
don't-
the
Right,
list.
they're not on
they
the
don't
ambulance,
receive the
but,
revenue.
ambulance budget at all.
Okay. And number 4 has, I'm sorry.
3,
3.
And 5
2,
and 6.
2.
Okay.
Should meet 9. I hope.
I can add them up here. Looks like 9. So now with these calls, yeah, the volume's up, and I mean, you guys, everyone knows you guys do a phenomenal job with what you're doing. We have 2 hospitals in our community.
Yeah.
Actually, our community's aging, so there's certainly a need. That's probably why there's the increase in volume of calls.
Mayor, when the chiefs talked about this, I did a little research they didn't know I did, which was I called different communities and asked them how much their EMS services were costing them. And an example is Penn Hills has a municipally paid EMS service that only has 2 ambulances on per shift, I believe. And
2 to
their
3.
budget's 1.7 million. I called Mount Lebanon, who subcontracts their EMS out to Health South,
No, to,
They're an authority.
to Medical Rescue Team South.
Medical Rescue Team South. They pay them around $380,000 a year. And I checked with Plum, and they give their, is that EMS service private, I think?
Yeah.
It's
Well,
a
yeah,
nonprofit, it's the
it's-
same.
And they,
Yeah.
they provide them over $400,000.
Yeah.
I think it's around 480. But,
This was a bargain.
Yep.
even
so-
with this
yeah, because-
increase, you're still only taking it to 237 and 9 EMS units.
Yeah.
And I think maybe another way to look at that, when you talk about the increase in the numbers that are here, it's so high, it's also the man-hour usage. If I recall correctly, when you look at each of these calls, it's about an hour, a little bit less per person in place. So you're looking at almost, if you divide that by 365, it's like 19 point something or another. Let's say 20 calls per day as well with man-hour use. So in other words, just about every hour of the day, there's personnel engaged in the activity at 2 at a minimum
Yeah.
per place. Yeah, and in most cases, there's usually between 4 and 6 across the municipality, depending on the time of the day. Usually 6 or more, actually, in most cases, too.
Usually
So-
between the hours of 3 PM and 8 PM,
PM.
you can guarantee there's about
6.
5 ambulances,
It's
5
running.
ambulance calls going on at this.
Same time.
Roughly at the same time.
Yeah, the
through
man-hour
those
usage
hours.
and the operational tempo is higher than it's ever been.
So 7,000 calls, roughly, we're approaching that 7,400 for the year. There's a health insurance reimbursement, right, for the calls?
Yeah, we do get reimbursed. Obviously, unfortunately, I guess we're the only industry that insurance really doesn't have to pay the full amount that we bill. So we might, if we would send.
That's pretty
high
standard.
mar-
I know that for sure.
If we- oh,
It's
yeah.
got that same
Yeah,
problem.
you're a chiropractor, you know about that. They decide what they want to pay us.
Certainly.
So if we want to bill them $800 for an ALS trip, they might say, okay, we'll pay you $500.
Well, it's the agreed upon fee schedule, because you'd be participating providers for the different insurance plans, so to speak.
Well, no, I don't know if that's
The
necessarily
auto industry
true.
pays up pretty,
The auto, auto
Yeah,
industry,
that's about the only, the auto
the
industry.
difference
If we send a State Farm a bill because you had a crash and you,
It's fixed.
and you had to go to the hospital, they pay the whole bill. They're about the only, the only folks that pay the bill.
Yeah, the challenge in EMS billing has traditionally been, as opposed to individual service provided, say for other healthcare providers, it's an either this or that. It fits into a couple of different categories, irrespective of insurance being paid for vehicle accidents or specialty
remember the-
research too. So it's almost fixed in that. So
It's
if
a
the
bundle,
research,
you bundle everything together.
yeah, right, they
remember
do.
the
So
number of calls that they could get,
Yeah.
that they take a person from an auto accident, they do heart monitoring, administer IVs, drugs, trauma treatment, and go to a trauma center, Allegheny General or Mercy, and the person's injured at all, and they get nothing.
Oh, yeah, those two, too. There's
Yeah.
also, yeah, a certain part of it's not on the
Yeah,
uninsured auto basis.
there's a lot of calls that we go on where we get paid nothing for
Our
providing a
service isn't
service
based on, we know we're getting paid.
because they don't.
We price services based on the service that we provide to the
Yeah, so it doesn't have the opportunity, now, some states allow individual fee-for-service for certain types of care, but the difference between certain types of advanced care that's in place and really extensive care, they're the same for somebody that gets an IV started on them as opposed to emptying the drug box and going through a cardiac arrest. The number's the same.
And take it
And
another
extra
different-
resources too, and
This
personnel.
may
We
sound
put people
stupid,
on-
but you guys have sent out, as we all know, ambulances, fire trucks, and it ends up like, no, I don't want to go. And you've just wasted gas, time, wear and tear.
Yep.
Well,
You know,
certainly.
like I refuse to be treated.
But if you also look at the people that are on those apparatus, I'll use a blanket term there. But, you know, when I was 28 years ago, when I started right here in Monroeville, under
Yeah.
someone I know, you know,
I'm sure about the fourth.
Fourth
Yeah,
fire-
fourth,
fire chief
yeah,
at the
yeah.
fourth
Yeah,
fire
really.
training in this field was actually, for the most part, it was free. You know, it was free for me to go to EMT school. Now those charges are $550 if you go, you know, and take that
Very
course
basic.
through CCAC.
What's a medic class?
versus-
Well, depending on where you go, if you go to the Center for Emergency Medicine down through UPMC, it's about $7,000 to become a paramedic.
And the fire company takes care
And the
of it.
fire
And the fire
companies
company
are
has
the-
to pay for that.
we fund, you know, you come back with a certificate now.
Right, yeah.
We're not paying for your exploration.
Let me
But,
ask you a curveball question here. I retired from this. I support this. I realize where you're coming from probably as much as anybody in the room. I have a concern that was presented to me twice, and do we have a guarantee down at dispatch center that all our ambulances will never go out of town?
Oh, certainly. That's
Yeah.
in our operational dispatch procedures. Anytime that
Because I know we give a lot of mutual aid.
we do, unfortunately, we do provide the communities around us upon request EMS service if they need it. I mean, and they do the same for us when we need it, but we're pretty self-sustaining. We can almost put every ambulance on the road if there's a need. Obviously, the crash that Scott was talking
Good
about,
examples.
we needed 8 ambulances. 8 ambulances showed up, and because the troops come out for the call. So there is a limit. Once we reach 5 ambulances committed to calls or whatever, committed to whatever, a detail calls, or even out of service. That includes out of service ambulances.
Okay.
So if you have 2 of the 9 out, that means we allow 3 more ambulances to be out. We will always maintain a minimum of 3 ambulances in town for our residents. We never strip the municipality and go down to 0 unless we're providing 9 residents of Monroeville with EMS service at that one time, obviously.
Or it's an extreme trauma
Right,
call.
yeah,
with
yeah.
A
If
bus
it's,
accident.
if it's a mass casualty incident, it's
still
like all hands on deck.
Yeah.
If the city of Pittsburgh would have a major event and they needed EMS, they would request maybe 2 or 3. And, when stuff like that happens, we are all very on the ball with that. I'll send a text out to the fire chiefs committee. Hey, there's something going on in the city of Pittsburgh. They're calling a couple of our ambulances. What's out of service? What's in service? Let's make sure we keep the in-town.
Even if all our ambulances are tied up at a bad incident, can't we call mutual aid?
Oh, yeah, sure. We have mutual aid contracts with surrounding communities. Plum, Murraysville,
It's required by license.
Penn Hills. Yeah, we have to have a contract for them in case all of our ambulances and all of our EMS resources are expended. We have backup.
Okay.
That's required.
But we will not strip the community.
No. That's been a policy that's been in place for years and years. Yeah.
Okay.
I have nothing on there.
So I guess the chiefs they're asking at this point for a proposed budget increase of $150,000. That's not in the budget. That's something we wouldn't, obviously, we don't decide now, but
Yeah,
that's something
right.
that council considers in December or whenever they
And
decide
you'll
to
check
pass the
on that
budget.
other line item?
Yeah,
Let Tim know
I will
tomorrow.
check on on the
Yeah,
the contract service fees.
Correct.
And the rest of,
Contribution, I don't know. how we
there's
missed
no other
that.
biomedical contract, Scott, that's existing for equipment servicing.
No.
Some of which has been
Cur-
still with.
Currently, the only other item that we would have to do that kind of contract with are the cardiac monitors we carry. However, those are provided
By Forbes.
right currently by Forbes Hospital.
Yeah.
However, at the end of next year, those monitors are going to be gone because those are,
Because of age.
And
they're aged and they are not going to be doing any preventive maintenance on them at that point. So
Supported from the.
that's something we're going to have to look at in our budget as well, to replace 9 cardiac monitors. Well, actually, yeah, 9 or 10.
Is there any
So-
grant funding or anything for something like that?
Well,
Sometimes.
it's a possibility for the volunteer fire department, grants are kind of easy to get. For the volunteer
For
EMS
not
services,
so much.
it's much harder.
And
Yeah,
by
it's
precedent,
just-
it was
Because
some-
they're just not there,
Yeah.
yeah.
and by
But that's not
precedent, it
dead in
was-
the water yet either.
Yeah.
by precedent,
That's
though, it's
something
been something that
that's
Monroeville's
something that
done.
we have on the middle burner.
Okay.
It's not quite on the front because it's not going until the end of 2021?
21.
Okay.
End
We're
of
thinking
2021. But it's something that's on our radar, and we're
Okay.
keeping a close eye on it because, if these monitors that Forbes has provided to us very graciously, if they start breaking and we can't,
That's okay.
and they can't fix it,
Work it.
Right.
we gotta be
Figure out what
worried
you're
about
gonna
that.
do.
Right,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay.
yeah. So, there was one other item that we wanted to bring before you, and that's in regard to a capital expenditure for the ambulance service. I don't believe you have anything for this.
Yeah, because capital wouldn't be part of this budget.
Oh, you don't want to talk about that at all?
I mean, that's the pleasure of council, but that's,
Well, I think we're gonna have a meeting for capital expenditures,
Yeah.
but we're not.
Are we,
Yeah.
Tim?
Really, sure, you have to.
all the
Yeah.
departments.
Yeah, we're gonna have another,
Come another time.
just capital.
There'll be a separate capital
another
budget
time.
meeting.
Okay,
asking-
another
you're
time.
asking-
You
You're
can wear
asking
the
us
same
already.
shirt.
Okay, yeah,
You
yeah,
can
I
email me
understand.
what you were just about to say.
Oh, okay, okay.
That way
he
can
does
put it
need
in-
It's
to
not
know.
that bad at all.
Okay.
You won't fall off your chair, don't worry.
I already have.
I was gonna say, he's already off his chair.
Very good.
Yeah.
Anything, other questions for these
No,
gentlemen?
very informative.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Well, on behalf of the Monroeville Fire Department and the Fire Chiefs Committee, we'd like to thank the Municipality of Monroeville, members of council, Mayor Griesbach, Manager Little, for their continued generosity and commitment to the Monroeville Fire Department in the past, today, and into the future. It's much appreciated. We thank you.
Thank you for your service.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Police Department, Chief Cole,
I
you're
know.
up, please.
Do we have to take a break for that before the
I
police
think-
department
can you-
shows up?
No, do we have to put tape on your
Now,
mouth?
let me say
Nope.
this, if you thought this.
I've seen you two talking.
Sharon, you need to.
Oh, he's carrying a calculator. Oh, no.
not yet.
Chief, welcome.
No, he has
How
a
are you today?
calculator in his
Great.
hand. Oh, no.
You're not allowed to talk to
I
him.
know. It's gonna be.
What page are the expenditures on there, Chief, do you know?
I just
did
have
see it.
pieces of the budget here,
See what page you're,
so I do not,
Sorry, Jim.
I already did that. Here, 29,
50.
here, this police
Starts on
administration.
29.
Does it start on
Couple of
29?
pages.
That's where I'm at.
It's worse.
Then it goes to emergency communications, well, that'd be dispatch center, right?
Right.
Then police patrol, criminal investigation,
And then
police
the
support
public safety
services,
trainings,
police training,
emergency management.
school
Another one of
crossings.
those missing
Okay,
with that number.
29, Ron.
I'm there.
We're there. We're there.
There's another one of those missing with that number.
Okay.
Oh,
there we go. I concur with that. Page 29.
is it on all of them? Yeah.
You know, I'll give a quick synopsis, obviously, of the police department.
Where is it?
we've continued to be consistent with running around 18,000 calls for service.
Next one.
That seems that we'll be somewhere close to that also this year. In addition to that, we've done the staffing at, it currently is at 44 sworn officers, including me. We have 3 in the queue, as we will say. We have 3 that we're real close to hiring. Whether we get that done here in December or the first part of January still kind of remains to be seen. But we have 3 more that'll be coming on to get us to our staffing of 47, which was what we were authorized to do during 2019. Currently, we're only staffing 2 divisions, the detective division, which has 1 supervisor, a lieutenant, and 4 detectives, 2 of which are corporals, and then myself in administration with, of course, Karen as the administrative assistant, I guess civilian employee. We did get our IT person, who seems to be working extremely well. Obviously, he's just getting his feet wet the first couple of weeks he's been here. So we have a civilian information technology person that's assigned to our division. And then, of course, we have Dave O'Neill, who's the fleet maintenance person that we share, but he's still assigned in my chain of command. Our patrol division has the other, I guess, would be 39 officers. My arithmetic's correct, 36 to 38 officers that are assigned to the patrol division that still patrol 3 shifts, 7 to 3, 3 to 11, 11 to 7. Of those 38 officers, 8 of them are supervisors assigned to various shifts. I think our staffing is going to stay at 47 we budgeted for this year, with the addition of a deputy chief position, which would take us to 48. Any questions?
That's in the budget already.
That's
the
in the,
assistant.
that is in the budget?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's in
I
the budget.
think it is.
That's in the budget we currently have.
Is he in the administrative budget?
Yes.
Yeah,
Has there been
The
any
IT
talk of doing getting a dog, doing any of that?
Part of that has been because I've been in the delayed form. We do not have any canines currently. When canines are assigned, they're assigned as part of our patrol division, not as some special division like we had previously.
Okay.
We've done that for staffing reasons, to be able to let us staff the individual shifts and keep our minimum staffing up. Maybe you should note that our minimum staffing has remained at 5 officers and a supervisor on second shift all days. On daylight, 4 officers and a supervisor. On third shift, 4 officers and a supervisor, with the 5 officers supervisor being on Friday and Saturday evenings. So the answer there is, yeah, we would certainly like to still look at. I have in our capital, I know we're not talking capital, I have put a budget line item in there for the equipment that would be necessary to purchase, to upfit cars and do what we have to do. We've been changing our fleet, as people I'm sure have seen throughout the municipality. We've gone from a sedan to I call it a utility platform, which is the Ford Explorer Police Utility. We were going to stay at that platform because we need the larger cars. As I do know, with my new 2020 Ford Explorer that I finally got here last week, is getting the upfitted, as they say. Those cars are a little bit bigger now. They're also going to be a platform for us to go to hybrid vehicles here in the near future that are police pursuit rated and are very, at least the initial couple months, 6 months of them being in the big cities are becoming sought after. We're going to wait a year. We may not do it with the cars, the next generation cars. We may wait another year just to make sure that we don't get the first year and they have a lot of problems with
Yeah.
them. They've already recalled some of the wiring harnesses on them, things like that. So, but that's going to be the future for our patrol fleet, that they will be assigned, they'll be assigned types of hybrid type cars. That'll be something in the future, and they'll be really functional hybrid cars. And again, talking about future, the canines, I do want to try to get 1 or 2 more canines into the fleet here, or canine officers, canine dogs for us. But they're still dependent on it. There's some things we still have to work out with how we're going to reimburse them, pay them for certain things. There's Fair Labor Standards Act that we have to follow, and we're trying to tweak that a little bit with the bargaining unit people.
Doug, touchy subject, are you looking at body cameras at all?
I am, Ron. It's not a really touchy subject. The state did an outstanding job of putting out good legislation, which is not something I say very often about the state when they legislate things. They did it appropriately. They listened to the right people. They tried to get a balancing act between, the, I guess, more liberal side that wants everything videotaped to what they can and cannot see. I think our state did a great job with that, so I'm totally in favor of body cameras. What's been happening here, and we've talked about some of the expenses, we've been holding on.
That's kind of what I was getting.
Yeah, well, again, it's going to be a capital, though, Ron, it's going to be a capital, I did budget for next year for that, and the capital side of things. What the issue is that our in-car cameras that we've had forever, we've been in in-car cameras really since the late 80s. We were one of the first to get into them. They are now, the current set that we have is well past its useful life. They were supposed to be 5-6 years. They're now going to be 7 or 8 years we've gotten out of them. So the technology keeps changing on a daily basis. But the new technology ties that all in, which includes body cameras, in-car cameras, which is what that budget line is for in the capital. And then even we're going to start having we have them videotaped now, but we never had audio because of the Restrictive Wiretap Act here in Pennsylvania. We're going to have audio in an interview room, so everybody post Miranda, we will audio
Your goal
and
is to replace
videotape
the car cameras and body cams all at the same time.
at the same time. I'm getting a little long-winded there, but that's true. That's exactly what we want to do. Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I didn't mean to.
No,
take
no,
that subject.
and there's some of the future things that I would like to do here. We've been blessed here. We've been lucky to have the resources that we have here on a yearly basis. I think the department's a younger department. I mean, we've hired I'm looking, how many have we hired here? We've got 3 that are currently getting ready to be out on their own, at least, but they're still on probation. We hired earlier in the year another 4, and we got 3 more, and then we have 1 ready to be hired in the beginning of next year. We have that veteran, we have to, he's on the list, and we'll exhaust this list here. So we're in a position to be at 47 here by the end of the year like we wanted to be.
Great.
So, with Josie, I was explaining in the back here to the new councilman, considering how the post-employment benefit gets put into the budget and what it really means. We certainly have that, and we have, I'm just top of my head, about 800,000 in post-employment benefits. I'd be pretty close to that, I think.
Dare I ask
Good.
you if you're going to end up putting
Be.
another person up at the high school?
We're still, I think.
I keep hitting you with these curveballs.
The curveballs are good. No, that was actually a fastball. But no, the answer to your question, I certainly am in support of putting another officer back up the high school as an SRO. My belief is that the best way to do that now is to assign him to the detective division. So in the 3 months that which he will be in a uniform, if the school district and us come to an agreement, the best thing we would call special operations division per se. He would be in a position where he would be then able in the summertime to help out with the caseload for the detectives. What the detectives are happening is, he would be out of that queue because he would just be on a flex
What's he
time.
there, 9 months?
About 9 months, yeah. So, and also the issue that's happening with us. He or she, right. The issue that's happening with us with our detective bureau is that they're getting inundated with these child lines and different types of investigations that we've never had before. I'm talking at the 80, 90 a year now. And what that means, it takes time. It takes time. It's all the stuff about, it takes time those officers to go over and do them. Where someone that's assigned to the school, since a lot of them come from the
Are
school.
they getting a lot of cyber crime?
The cyber crimes, all that stuff associated.
The
all of-
mandated reporting.
The mandating and reporting, as you're well aware of as a doctor, all the things that go with that, that would offset the detective. So I do want to add people to the detective division. That's my goal also, as we get to a strength level, it's consistent to keep our staffing in the patrol division.
And the school district is interested in
They
adding
are.
that
The
as
school
well.
district's
We've had
interested.
discussions with them.
We're
It's a
trying to
matter of
get
finding out the best way to do it and make it
We're
work.
trying to get a better working relationship. We certainly have always had a good working relationship, continue to have that. I know our officers are up there probably on a weekly basis on stuff that they cover above what the school police cover. So that's just.
But
that's
they
the big-
eliminated the SRO that we had there,
they did.
correct? And now they're looking at possibly putting him back, one back.
They are.
Thank you.
That's true. But we want to cooperate. We understand the safety of the children in the school. We certainly want to make our schools as safe as we possibly can, and not just our public schools, our parochial schools, our special needs schools, I apologize if that's the improper word to say, but certainly we have schools, we have a handful of schools that, are even charter schools that we have around the area. We certainly want to be part of trying to make them as safe as possible for everybody.
And no one can argue with that. I mean,
Yeah, nobody
we just
can.
have to find out the best way to do it.
We just got to find out the best way.
Administratively
And we
and
certainly, as I said to you, Mayor, and you've heard, but we certainly, and according to, for Councilman Harvey, we certainly don't want to put one of our school resource officers into one of our officers as a school resource officer in a situation that's going to make them fail. That's not what we want to do. We want to make sure we put it into a situation that everybody's at peace with and that we can do it correctly.
Well, we're totally in favor of it and always were.
Sure, we always
So,
are.
yeah.
I mean, I really am. I mean, everybody, there's good people in both places, and we're just trying to make it happen here.
Thank you.
Very good. Next section, Chief.
Okay? I don't even know what section we're on.
I think we kind of crossed sections.
Communications.
Yeah.
You tell us, we'll go through it.
Oh, well,
Communications, the next page,
I'm getting there. Police administration.
Already, didn't we?
30 and 31. It's the dispatch.
Okay. I mean, you're seeing a little bit of increase of about, $80,000 there when you look at the bottom line. We've had some increases in some of the, wearing apparel for the people that are assigned to that division to just one. We've tried to keep our expenses, I mean, if you look at telephone, telegraph, obviously that's, we issue cell phones to everybody. So that's part of that. There's been some upgrades there. When I look here, just the retiree health insurance, that's not right. Oh, correction, I'm in the wrong one here. Retiree health insurance, yeah, that's right, about $800,000. So there's a pretty big ticket there. We tried to keep everything pretty much in line. Actually, if you look at I was looking at the wrong budget here, but you look at the patrol budget, it actually went down.
You in patrol?
I'm in patrol now. I'm actually at 33 here. So
We were looking at communications.
oh, okay. Well, I thought somebody said patrol. Communications is the same thing there. You're looking at, we have limited retired healthcare benefits there because of the contract. But it's been pretty much, the projected budget here was 1.1 million, 27,000. It's staying around 1,080,000.
Doc, is there anything in your budget, are you working on becoming an accredited department?
That's being the police department side of it, yeah, but the answer is yes. Part of the, one of the expenses on the police is you might see an increase, well, we will see an increase in services that we are purchasing, contract services, and that's because we're using a company called Lexipol. I gotta give a lot of credit to the bargaining unit representatives, because they sit down with us every Monday and Wednesday. We've been doing it now for almost 9 months. Where we sit down and we're going over page by page of the whole policy manual. We currently have in effect a 450-page policy manual, but what the Lexipol does is it gives us the opportunity, we do it in a conference call with a video screen, and we talk to the lady that's representing Lexipol. It gives us national, state, and then best practice standards that we review and incorporate in, including what they call PLAC, which is the Pennsylvania Law Enforcement Accreditation Commission, and we do that. So we're in the process of getting that finalized, with my intent in 2020 is to credit the department under PLAC.
And is there not something else related to maintaining updates and continuing updates and mandates through the Lexipol service?
Well, Lexipol does very good. There's some money involved here, but the reoccurring fees roughly $15,000 a year. And that's, again, put into our service fees already, our contract service fees. The issue with it is they do such a great job once we get done with this, that we could do it daily, weekly, monthly, however we want to do it. We're going to probably do it initially weekly. They send out bulletins to the emails to every officer, so when they come on duty and log into their email, they'll have an actual scenario-based question. Very simple, yes, no, true, false, of a scenario, what policy it's covered under. And it reviews the policies and tracks that everybody's reviewing and looking at the policies.
Wow, that's
So
cool.
we're going to be able to document that instead of just throwing a manual on somebody's desk and saying, here's 500 pages, read it, and we know how that will not get read. We have our core policies that the guys know very well, use of force, pursuit driving, all that. But this is the day in, day out policies that will meet all the requirements. And as I said, I got to thank the bargaining unit for being very cooperative. They seem to be on board with this.
And that's
They don't seem
updated
they
also
are.
to the latest changes in the
And
standards. on
anything
the
that changes,
precedent.
once we get this up and running, on a daily basis, everybody's got to log in, they already got everybody's email, they'll be able to go into Lexipol, they'll be able to go onto their department-issued
Just like
smartphone
Interpol?
and bring up the poll. No, it's not like Interpol. And bring up their smartphone, and they'll be able to look at them on their phone. It's just a great way to track, because it's such, we've had the manual, everybody has a manual, but, hey, you got to change section, chapter 1. You got to reissue a whole chapter 1 in paper, punch the holes in it, take the old chapter out, put the new chapter
Karen's
in.
busy for a week.
Those days are all electronic, all paperless, all going to be available. They can print it if they want, parts of it, if there's something they have a question on. And then like anything else, once we get this thing up and running, we're going to certainly maintain it and keep it continuing on so that we can stay current. And they have teams of lawyers nationwide. Thousands of departments use this across the country. And even in Pennsylvania, there's a handful, well, there's more than a handful now, there's probably somewhere in the neighborhood of a couple hundred that actually use this, and they keep it current. They have lawyers that review case laws that come out as soon as they come out and they think the policy should be changed. There's an updated policy sent to me, I approve it, it goes out to the bargaining unit, boof, it's in the system, it's in the manual. So in this day of legal stuff and civil liability and everything that goes on with it, we're trying to stay at I think we're doing a pretty good job of staying at the cutting edge.
We still on patrol.
I thought we were in
We're
dispatch.
kinda crossing
You're the
over.
one that jumped the patrol.
Wait, we've done,
Tell me where you want me to be.
Somehow it's her fault.
it's not. Because service contracts is in police patrol,
Yeah.
Ron. What
We
he's
got-
talking about, the service contracts that he's talking about are under police patrol. Okay.
So you might have seen an increase in that. And one of the advantages what really made me push toward it was initially, the initial cost to get it going was like $70,000 last year. And they came out somewhere at the beginning of last year and said, we're done with it, it's too expensive. And they cut us back down to the low 30s, 32, 33. And Mr. Manager and I sat down and discussed it, he signed off on it, and we went and did it. And I had budgeted money for last year to do it. I wasn't at that 30,000 range, but we were pretty close, and we were able to get some money from other parts of the budget without going over
Do
budget.
you have your wearing apparel coming from 29,000 to 50,000, is there, in patrol? Is there something special being bought, or is that new vest being replaced, or?
Combination of both. One of the other issues with the body cameras, Ron, is that a lot of departments now are going to the over-the-shirt body armor vest. And the reason for that, you can see them in the city, you can see Penn Hills has just gone to them. A lot of them are looking at that. So part of this policy manual is we're going to also looking at the uniforms to make them more, I don't want to use the word tactical because that's not a good word because everybody gets wound up about that, but we're going to try to make it more comfortable for the officers as well as more functional. One of the advantages of an over vest is that you can, think about what's on your waist now. We now have a handgun, we got spare magazines, some guys spare rifle magazines, pepper spray, a taser, a baton, at least one set of handcuffs, and a case to carry your portable radio. When you look at that from a whole perspective, you're just putting too much weight on people's back and hips and causing problems. So the idea is to take some of that and push that up onto a vest, and then we're gonna add a body camera on top of it. Even though
So
it's
that-
not,
The vest can hold some of that
hold
stuff that
that
wouldn't
stuff.
be on your
And then
waist.
in addition to that, if you want to do that as an option, you can put suspenders, and you won't see them, they'll be hidden under the over the vest. It's a new ensemble, it's not new, it's really been out for 5 or 6 years, 8 years now, but it's becoming, you saw it in the West Coast, if you watch any of the cop shows, you'd see a lot of the officers even wearing almost like a harness that the military wears that supports their gear. So some of that is to start looking for that. I believe in the contract, there's now gonna be a raise in uniform allowance. Any uniforms that we mandate to the bargaining unit, we gotta pay for. I'm hoping to have some type of a joint agreement on this, that we can do this and keep into our budget line. So that's why I added a few extra bucks there.
Good.
Again, it's the whole idea of getting into the body cameras, trying to offset, make it as easy on the officers as possible.
I like your vest.
Sounds good, Chief.
Yeah.
Next section.
35,
Just tell me what page you're on, 35?
35.
Criminal investigation.
Does he
Again,
do this to you?
I follow.
No
You had them in
wonder.
order at first. didn't
You're
you?
like two of the same people.
I'm not really sure why it went down a couple $100,000 or $150,000. Is that, oh,
Your hospitalization went from
OPEB.
280 to 266.
yeah, that's probably why. That's one of it. OPEB, probably some of it,
It was 138,000 of it.
yeah.
No, I'm sorry. Hospitalization is what went down.
Okay.
You have younger officers.
Well, I think you assigned
Oh, yeah, it went from 103 to
officers, sadly,
74.
Yeah.
that have now passed and retired stuff. Is that what you're talking about? Are we talking retired benefits or?
No, I'm talking about regular hospitalization.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it went from 103 to 74.
Right.
Guess the guys are being healthier. Well, I think some of that was because we had more officers maybe in that
You might
that
have.
queue, yeah.
And then,
And
you know,
there's only 5 in that division, just to throw it out here. The salary wise here too, you know, we always try to, I hate to call it a guesstimate, but I guess that's kind of what it is. What kind of overtime reimbursement we're gonna be getting for those officers. We have none in here this time. I'm not sure why we didn't do that. Because there should be money in that for next year.
overtime reimbursement?
Yeah.
We moved that to revenue,
Oh, that's why we did. Okay,
it's
so that's
not
probably why.
in the
we-
revenue
Yeah.
section.
Well, we used to always put it in as a negative, though. We put it in as a
Yeah, I
negative.
know.
Yeah, that
Right.
was done for
Debiting,
a
I
couple of
think.
years, and
That's
then
correct,
in
yeah.
18 it stopped, changed.
Right.
Because we have been generating a lot more overtime than that. And I say that with a little bit of a, we have, the municipality it's not, but we have our officers involved in multiple different task forces, of which that overtime gets reimbursed to us, both federal and state level.
When your arbitration award is gone too. That was 8750.
Because I think
They
the,
must have, you moved that to a revenue?
I don't think they have it anymore.
I
No
think,
arbitration awards?
I
So
think
it's
the
just-
That was the flat,
managers,
yeah, that was the flat fee that they received, obviously in the arbitration award, and that goes away,
Okay,
which is relatively speaking a small amount.
yeah.
was that, I don't know what that was for. Oh, okay.
That was the flat
we-
fee that they got under the arbitration instead of a
Oh,
percentage.
yeah, because the budget's,
Yeah,
that
so now
gets
it's
over.
just a
okay.
Decided
zero.
to take and put that
Yeah.
Okay.
under a separate line item.
Yeah, I guess the only, because we're hopefully not going to go to arbitration, so we're good there.
Okay, 37.
Okay. Support services. That's obviously our civilian employees that are in there. Or a civilian
This
employee.
is the
just-
person that
that's
takes
just
care of the
Dave.
fleet maintenance, correct?
That's only Dave O'Neill, that's correct, I'm sorry, that's Dave O'Neill. on
This
there.
whole page,
Yeah.
support.
Any questions, council?
No, none.
Next page, chief.
Training.
Training
39.
division.
As a thought, chief, I think next year maybe we ought to put your IT person on it.
Well, I would agree.
I would think,
I would agree.
that's what I thought.
You know, take
that
them
would
out
have
of,
been
out
there.
of administration, put them under here.
I would agree that, I was kind of, I was thinking that when I was.
Under support,
We
yeah.
we only
Yeah.
got him hired here last week, a couple weeks ago, so he's the end of
Yeah.
19 here, but for 20, we probably should have put him in there. Well, you know, what happened with police training, there used to be a person assigned there full-time. That's maybe one of the other reasons why the other post-employment benefits picked up a bit in the other divisions, because the retirees that were in police training, they're obviously have post-employment benefits. But we took this down, we discussed that when we were doing our budget, and I'm in total agreement that the only thing we have there is the 40,000, which is for purchasing ammo and different type of stuff that we need, taser cartridges, things like that, that we purchase for that over the year, doing our training and replacing that. That's what that is.
But the training's coming out of the other budget line.
The instructors are all coming out of the other budget line. Well, we don't have any full-time people doing that. That's one of the other ways we did it to save some cost here, is a couple years back now, actually, it's been like 5 years back, we started just having officers get detailed out of that in their trainers. And I have a handful that do
Right,
that.
for someone maybe is reading through this, just to be clear that we are training our
Oh,
officers.
we're training more than ever.
Yes, so just,
Well, yeah, and that's
Put that-
something
I
we
wanna
should,
put that out there.
that 40,000, you know, we did go to new weapons here this past, actually, the final set will be issued out here tomorrow. We did go from our 45 caliber Smith & Wessons down to our, I say down to, but went to Glock 5th generation 9 millimeters. and we went back, so it's kind of my whole career. I started out in a 9 and went to a 40, went to a 45,
You
now
start
we're
off
back,
with
it's just a circle, I'm
357.
back in 9s. But the 9mm, the FBI tested, they speak highly of them. They ballistically, they've come out with new ammo. It says it's the same to get the, all police officers want to do is they have to fire their weapon is they want to stop the action. That's all we're trying to do. And we feel very comfortable with these new weapons. And the kicker, though, of that is when you buy what they call the ball ammo, the non-expensive ammo to practice with, they are half the cost, sometimes maybe a third of the cost of what the 45 ammo is. So what that means is that our officers are shooting more. We used to only do a couple times a year. We're doing 4 times a year, and we're getting a lot more training time. As you guys see when I do the hourly reports of training time. So we believe training, saves us from liability, so that's why we're going to continue to do
Hey,
that.
Doug, on this, in the past, we have kept this police training here since 2014, only because of the OPEB, if I remember correctly. Now, the OPEB, we're doing the accounting on it a different way. Why can't we just, maybe not
Move
for
this
this
whole-
year, yeah, just take the weapon, because most of this is weapons and protective equipment, and put it under police patrol.
That's all it is.
You know, Josie, I think, maybe not now, but next year maybe, or,
Don't you think you ought to be able to show how much you spend on police training and
Not if you're not if you're not keeping the officers in
Yeah,
there
you
and
don't-
showing that. You're
we
only
used to
showing what
have-
he's buying,
oh,
ammo.
I
I'm
can,
talking about a liability situation where you have to show everything that you provided that officer, including training. How much do you train the officers?
We'd still be tracking them.
I could-
It would
you could
still be
track that
tracked,
under
Ron.
police patrol or detectives or whatever.
we track
Instead
all
of having
the
all these
hours
goose eggs here.
used in training, Ron, if that helps you. I mean, I send you monthly reports with the hours, so we track that by individual. It's actually tracked in Telestaff. So Telestaff has, because they're on a training day when they're in Telestaff. So that's how we track, and then, of course, we track it by their training records, when they
You
actually
don't
complete
see
something.
any possibility of eventually having an officer that's in charge of training?
Not in the near future, but I mean, certainly it's always a possibility, just like the same thing with our traffic division. I see that can be something to come back, whether it would be more of a shared responsibility. I think sharing those divisions is the way to go here from an economic standpoint, but, getting the best out of both, both divisions. But, again, it's up to, we could put that, we really could put the, weapons and protective equipment budget in the
Into-
patrol or
back
even
into patrol.
administration. You can put it wherever you wanted to.
Yeah, I don't.
It's still
Josie,
being
what do
labeled.
you think? I don't
Still
think
being labeled the same way.
It should be
it should be.
patrol, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, the vast majority is the patrol division. They have, the area of, 36, 38 officers in that
Yeah, they're the
division.
ones that are using most of this.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the detectives and whoever, yeah, right, correct.
No. Eh. Nope, you're crossing guards too, aren't you?
Yeah. That,
Hey, 41.
I think we have a total of 4. That's exactly right. We have 4 crossing guards now. We have 2 up in University Park, 1 in Mellon Plan, and 1 in Old 22 in Garden City, correct. So that's the 4 crossing guards. We have 1 alternate. Helps us out.
I think when I was looking through Mount Lebanon's budget, when I was looking for that number.
It's ridiculous.
It was like 27.
Yeah. Penn Hills at one time had 45. Yeah, every intersection. I don't think they have that many now. But at one time, they had 40-some, yeah. And, Mount Lebanon, in defense to them, nobody takes a bus. They all walk to
Because they don't
school.
have,
Yeah,
everybody
yeah.
walks.
And Penn Hills in that days, that used to be what everybody would walk
Penn
to
Hills has
school.
more people than us packed into 5 square miles.
Yeah, well, that's right, right. So, so the school cards is really not, the real big expenditure there for us, we do share that cost with the, it's actually more than that. We share that cost, half the cost with the school district, just so everybody remembers that, school district pays half of that. And one of the things we did in the past, and we continue to do now, is we offset their cell phone costs, so they make sure that they have some type of communication with us. God forbid something bad would happen, they could call for help.
So Chief, I'm sorry, the 29,000, say 30,000,
It's half.
we're paying 15
No, it's half.
50.
or it's 60
It's 60,000.
total?
Yeah, well, that's our expense there.
expense is 29.
Our expense is what you see there, that's correct. And then I think the last thing that I have, fire department, is the training center.
Somebody give me a page.
Well, it's on fire.
Page
suppressor.
51.
There it is. Page 51.
How many were there?
Chief?
Again, we're only about 3,000 up. It's just the use of the utilities. One thing to remember with this cost here, which is showing 60,500 to run that center. That center obviously has 3 buildings in it, 4 buildings if you count the fire tower. It has 3 buildings that requires heat and electricity. Well, I guess the fire tower requires electricity, but not heat, and air conditioning in the other 3 buildings. It's been a joint venture it's unbelievably cost-effective for the municipality. In addition to this, if you look at the 60 figure, 24,000, it ends up being a little bit more than that. It ends up being somewhere pushing 28,000 a year, depending on the courses that we can charge for. It's minimal that we charge for the use of the facility. There's some firearms courses that we put on that we're able to charge the individuals $25 a head when they come to that. So it ends up being somewhere around 28,000. But
Still running?
24,000 of that comes from Forbes. They rent it for 24,000. So
The
really,
28,000 you're talking about, that's on the revenue side?
that'd be on the revenue side, absolutely. So the reality of this, the actual true cost of this, and I say true because Public Works does do stuff on duty time. They clean things up and keep the grass cut, and they do an excellent job for that. But the actual number cost in this is somewhere in the 40,000 range or a little less. Maybe as less as, depending on how much we can collect. We try to collect fees. They are in this fee schedule when it's possible. We wanted to try to collect more, and we actually had a big discussion with our partners with the FBI, and it became a thing that the FBI couldn't charge. It became a problem. The bottom line was, when they put on courses, we don't want to be
But we
charging
can
anybody
charge
for
for the
law
use of our
enforcement.
classroom and burn building and things like that, right?
No, with the stuff that the FBI provides, what ends up happening is that, for instance, I'll give you an example. They put on some firearms instructor classes where they showed up. It was open to multiple agencies throughout the area. Lots of police officers came from, actually, from other states too, West Virginia, Ohio. They came to this class. When they came there to try to charge them $50, they wanted to charge them $50 a head, quote unquote, to use the facility. And that became a real big issue because the federal government is responsible for helping train, and they can't charge people for it. It became a really problematic one.
But I mean the municipality charges.
Now, the municipality can, if we have some agency come in that's non-public related, we've done that, or public, meaning a public fire rescue, we can charge minimal amounts for some of the wear and tear, which we've done, the use of water, things like that on the fire side of it. But from the law enforcement side of it, became really problematic. An example I'll give you, the NRA comes in, which is an outside agency, and they teach a firearms instructor class also. That's when we can charge because they're an outside agency. They come in, we're letting them use the facility. We have the agreement of the FBI, and we charge $25 a head for people to be there, use our facility.
There's some issues up at the training academy that I wanted to bring up to you, and I don't know if this is the proper time or we should wait till capital or,
I put money in the capital budget for upgrading. I mean, we're certainly upgrading the fencing there currently. We have things we have to upgrade, as I've been talking to Paul. So we're prepared to talk about that in capital. I mean, the operating side of this, I don't see is going to really change. The electricity, we've been staying pretty much under budget or at budget with the electricity, water, gas, and our TV. We were able to get the cable we have there.
Doug, the burn room needs new towels again.
Okay, that would be a capital,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah, and we certainly are looking at that.
If that's capital, I'm
Yeah.
good to move on.
Yep. Cool.
All right, Chief, is that it, everything?
Yeah, you guys got through me pretty quick here. I know Paul Ugas is real quick, really excited to get up here, so we want to leave plenty of time for him.
Nice job, Chief.
Oh, thanks,
Thank you.
Mayor.
Thank you, Doug.
Keep up the good work.
What page are we on? Oh, we'll have to wait.
Next, we have Paul Hugus, Building, Engineering, Community Development, and Public Works.
Mayor, may we take a 5-minute break before Mr.
Yeah,
Yukis gives
ma'am.
his 5-minute
Oh,
presentation?
5 minutes here, brother.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a 5-minute
Oh,
recess.
you're going to be more than 5 minutes. You're going to be more than 5 minutes. In the morning.
In China.
Okay, we're coming out of recess to continue with our
Why
budget
did I
hearing,
glasses
November
for this
14th,
one?
2019. We have Paul Hugus, Building Engineering, Community Development, and Public Works. Paul, welcome.
Thank you. So I gave you two documents. The first document is a organizational structure that may help you with budget numbers and people and pages that we'll be talking about them. So effectively, June 1st is when the consolidation of the departments occurred. What you see in front of you is how the department is structured. We're a group of 70 now, based out of two buildings, the municipal building and the public works facility. So what you have in front of you is each individual department with the department numbers and the page numbers within the budget book, so you can easily reference them as we go through this. The second page is I made it large enough so, Ron, you don't have to get your reading glasses. So on the second page is a spreadsheet. It lists the department numbers, the descriptions. The FTP is a full-time people, and PTP is a part-times. The expenditures, the page numbers, and then the revenue section on the other side of that. So you'll have to give me some leniency on this, because when we started putting the budget together for this year was in August, September. So my evaluation of the budgets really wasn't real fair because it took over in June. So I put some numbers in, then I printed the year-to-date in November to see that there were certain line items that were just totally out of money. Josie's tired of seeing me. She calls me Mayhem from that commercial, because every time I come in, I'm like, I'm out of money. I need more money. And Tim goes, where are you gonna get the money from? I'm like,
Josie.
I don't know where I'm getting the money from,
He
but
thinks I have a tree.
Yeah.
I told her she has a money tree, so we've run out of money in many different line items.
Oh, we had those
and
55-gallon drums
Yeah.
sitting downstairs.
She has a money tree there. So what you're gonna see here in the spreadsheet, which is highlighted, are numbers that are different than what's in the budget. These are different numbers that are in the budget, and, you know, we can go through that. So the first department is 2,300, which is the fire building and code enforcement directors, which is myself and the secretary. One of the common themes you'll see in here, which I talked to Josie about already, is the OPEB seems to be missing on some of these, and the gasoline, oil, and lubricants seems to be missing on some of these, so they have to be polluted. And you'll see in that column, the first highlighted column where it says finance, those are numbers that Josie has to put in there, okay? So in the 2,300, OPEB needs to be put in. The contract service fees, which is 2,730. The reason that had increased so much is because we have to pay our fair share of the Tyler Technologies. And that's why that dollar value has been increased that much.
Oh, what page are you on?
I'm on page 45.
45.
All right, I'm on 53.
Well, you don't
You-
need to be there.
If you go back to your page.
Okay, I'm here
If you
now.
go back and it says expenditures, page 45 on your spreadsheet. At the very
Where?
top, it's highlighted.
Look,
Make a comment on the OPEB.
Oh, right there. Gotcha.
The OPEB is actually your retiree health insurance,
Right.
so you do have a number in there.
Okay.
So we don't put a number in the OPEB, that's an auditor line.
Okay. The contract service fees again is for the Tyler Technologies, that we had to add that from last year. 2904, which is the DCED PA UCC fees, that is a new line item. That's because for every building permit that we issue, we have to pay the Department of Labor and Industry $4.50 for every permit we issued. That's a new line item that we did not have in last year. And again, gasoline and lubricants, and then the last one, which is the demo condemned properties. So there's $60,000 in the budget for 2019 for our current year. So we put money in there, but we also applied for money through the the DCD for a grant, which we received. So we have 10 structures on the list to be demolished this year. We put money in there because we didn't know if we were going to get the grant, so we wanted to be safe about it. So we probably aren't going to use that this year. But again, in 2020, I'd like to put money in there again, because if we come across some of these structures that need to be demolished, we need to have some money to do that with. So that's why the $30,000. You look at about $10,000 per structure now for
So we
demolition.
received a grant for how many structures?
I'm sorry,
How many structures?
10,
10.
yes.
Great.
And then we also continually go through the TRICOG with the land bank. We've been pretty successful with that, of getting those houses taken over by the land bank and flipped. We've had some houses donated to the TRICOG to get flipped, so those programs have actually been pretty successful. So that's it for 2,300, unless you have any questions.
No, sir.
Okay, the next is 2350, which is on the next page on 47. Again, the OPEB and the gasoline and lubricants is the only thing of interest there. Questions?
No.
There's nothing in there that's, you know,
No.
gonna jump out and bite you in the nose.
Nope.
Nothing?
Nope.
Okay,
Next.
No.
next would be
53.
on page 49, I'm sorry, not 49.
53.
53.
53. Guess I was looking at my own sheets. 53. Probably the one that's gonna jump out at you there is, you don't see it, because again, it was a late entry on my part, is seminar expenses. What I gave you on your spreadsheet is $10,000. What is in the budget is $1,000. And the reason that is for additional training for the Public Works Department. We just recently have gone through some training for Public Works. We went through a commercial driver's license training where I brought a third-party agency in. We have 55 commercial driver's licensed employees. We broke it up into a 3-day period. Thursday, Friday, Saturday at the training center. It was a great event. Thought it was very useful for all the employees as well as management. It was put on for us. He was a retired lieutenant from the state police, the head of their DOT division. And last week, the storm sewer crew went to a trench safety course down in Neville Island. And I want to continue with these types of training courses for Public Works. It's actually in their contract that the municipality is supposed to provide training for the Public Works Department. And I want to continue on that path with that department of adding additional training across the board, from safety to operational training,
Were we doing that in the
Sounds good.
past?
not to my knowledge.
Okay. It's money well spent.
Yes, it is. Yes, it
Thank you.
is.
On to
Next, Mr.
55.
Hugus.
That was the only changes within 3,200.
Okay.
If you don't have any questions, then we're going to go to page 55, which is the snow and ice control. Again, there's, I don't see there being any changes
No.
to that department. You know, basically, we take, we have 14 snow routes within the municipality. We actually got to engage into that this week for the first time for the season. It went off pretty uneventful, but there's no changes within that budget.
Hopefully it's enough for this year.
I agree. Mother Nature's anyone that knows.
Yeah. Street lighting. Is that us?
All right, the next one is street lighting, which is page 57. Again, no changes with that. That's the payment for our street lighting throughout the municipality.
Has that changed with the conversion to LED lights in some of the areas?
It's a good
Is
question.
Duquesne Light
Oh, they-
charging us anything differently whenever they convert to LED?
Oh, yeah, oh, yeah.
Yeah, because we've been converting 110 lights per year for the last 3 years. So, you know, we're pushing, you know, over 300 lights now that have been converted.
Because Duquesne Light charges us a per light fee.
That's
how they factor.
Right, I don't
It hasn't-
have the
it hasn't
answer.
changed
I
since
could
it's
get
gone to
back to you on
We should
that.
probably
Yeah.
look into that because the energy is definitely, we're not
Right.
If we
using as much.
request
so.
new lighting like I did on Pondview, do they automatically put in LED?
They do put in LED, yes.
And we'll do another 110 again this coming year,
Yeah,
correct?
that's the plan.
Okay,
We do as many as we possibly can, because
Right.
if other communities don't engage into that program, they will offer to us because they know we'll take it.
right,
So if somebody
We're
else
happy to
doesn't
have
feel like
it.
doing it, they'll offer to us and we'll do it.
okay. Yeah, I want to continue with that for sure.
I wasn't aware of it. I didn't know that was, I thought it was out of.
Next, Mr. Hugus.
Okay, the next is the street maintenance department, which is on page 59.
It doesn't-
Really, there's no changes to that either, except for the OPEB. Josie, I know we mentioned that. Really not much of a change there.
Down to park maintenance.
Okay,
Okay, parks maintenance is 3260.
20 and 5.
Again, what you're gonna see on that spreadsheet I gave you is different from what you see in your book, because you have the OPEB and the gasoline, which is, Josie and I'll figure that out. But the two items that I increased was recreational equipment repair and the paint and painting supplies. You can see I put a much larger dollar value.
Yeah.
We simply have ran out of money, and there are things that need to be done within the Parks Department, and we need money to do that.
The equipment, like the.
Absolutely.
The
The
swings
playground,
and
the
the,
playground equipment, the timbers, the safety surface, the pavilions need painted. Yes, there's.
a lot.
There's a laundry list of things that need to be
Yes.
done. And to be
Okay.
quite honest with you, you know, this is an estimate. It's probably gonna take a couple of years to really, balance that out, if you
Right.
will.
but it's a good start.
Yes.
Thank you.
You know, actually, there's a few pavilions we need to put new roofs on next year.
Already? Well, already. I'm
Not
thinking-
already. It's
I'm
been-
thinking community park, no, doesn't
Yeah.
matter, yeah, it's not already.
the other
Yeah, it's
part.
relative to in
Yeah,
my experience, but not.
that would have to probably go in capital.
Oh, and under parks and maintenance, you have $20,000 there for recreation equipment and repair.
Yes.
Under 3260, I don't see that line item in my budget. Is it just
He's
32?
adding it.
It's all 3260.
No, it's, I'm sorry,
What is the line number?
3260.
I gotcha. Hold on, I did not put it down.
It's 2606 recreation equipment.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, it's
2606.
2606. That's my fault.
$1,000.
Okay.
2606.
So it should be 20,000 there.
Correct, instead of 1,000. I don't know what you do with $1,000 when it comes to
Not much.
repairs.
So that should be 20.
And these repairs, are they done, they're not done by the parks crew, they're done by the building maintenance
Man,
people?
building, and we're gonna get into that as we go through
All right.
here, yes.
Okay.
Okay,
Very good. Next, signs and markings. Mr. Hugus.
What you're gonna see here, if you look at the 2020 versus the 2019, we changed some of the things in here because the traffic signals, since 2002, the traffic signal was part of the signs and markings budget. Prior to 2002, traffic signals were separate. We separated them again. So the traffic signals repair is in one separate budget, and the signs and markings is in a different. And it's just for some good accounting practices, to be quite honest with you. Okay?
Well, this is where you maybe want to give the explanation that you told me when I brought this up at the last time about possible new opticoms because of the difficulty in repairing them.
And we'll get to
Given
that, we'll get to that under the traffic signals part of it.
Okay,
This is just signs and markings.
I didn't know signals were different.
That's what he was saying, is this time he's broken the back out again.
Okay,
So on your spreadsheet, what you'll see is that there's $4,000 in there for seminar expenses. And what that is for is that we essentially have all new people in the signs division. And we need to upgrade our software that we make our signs with. And we need to bring somebody in to train people because we have all new people. So that's why the dollar value has been increased.
That includes the software upgrade.
Yes.
Okay.
65.
Refuse collection and disposal.
Love these guys.
Refuse collection, again, the only two items there. Josie, there's nothing in there for drug testing.
Well, sometimes the drug testing, well, I see what you're saying, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I see, okay.
All right, and then again, the
Got it.
gasoline and lubricants, which I know, obviously for the refuse division, that dollar amount is a lot, and it's not in there.
What is it? Drug testing and
Yes.
lubricants, okay.
So we collect about 10,000 tons of refuse per month.
A month.
Wait, how much?
Yep.
10,000 tons.
Yep. I'm sorry, 1,000 tons, I'm sorry.
1,000
I'm off
tons a
zero.
month.
And 10,000 humps.
I'm off a zero. Yeah, it was. It's 1,000 tons, no, 1,000 tons per week,
1,000 tons.
4,000 a month.
4,000, right.
Okay.
It's late. It's 10,000 single-family homes,
Yeah.
There was a 10,000 there somewhere.
yes.
I didn't think we had.
All right, any questions of refuse?
Nope.
It's a load of garbage.
All right. We're gonna get into some areas here where we're gonna have some expenses changes. The vehicle equipment, maintenance and repair. I mean, we touched on this a little bit, obviously, effectively at Memorial Day is when the new mechanics started. And things changed dramatically from an expense standpoint because you had 3 new mechanics. Not all of them are new, but they were new to the division. So you got 3 heavy equipment mechanics and 2 mechanics. So your expenses went up dramatically. So we were spending about $11,000 a month on motor vehicle parts, up to $15,000 a month once the new guys started, just because we were getting a lot more vehicles through and replacing a lot of parts, and it's proportional to them. So that's why there was a large increase in that. The other thing that we did with, we got new fleet maintenance software for the mechanics this year, because the old system was no longer supported and actually stopped working, so we had to get new fleet maintenance software. One of the things we're still out looking at is diagnostic software. The problem is that we have so many different types of vehicles, different types of engines. You have Max, you have Caterpillars, you have Cummins, you have Detroits. So trying to find something that's either one that could do all them all, or we have to get an individual module for each one of those, is something that we're still looking at for the vehicle maintenance.
When are you gonna be able to tell, like, the amount that we used to send out versus now the amount that we're doing in-house?
I don't know, I could readily give you that statistic. I could tell you that pretty much we try to, even with the fire departments now, we try to do as much as we can in-house. Anything that I mean, obviously we do all the state inspections, we do the maintenance work, we don't do the warranty work. We can't do the emissions testing though. We don't do that, we don't have the equipment to do that.
Okay,
But just talking, the fire chiefs just told you how many vehicles they have in their
Right.
fleet. So there's about 75 public works vehicles, there's 35, and we call them miscellaneous vehicles, which are excavators, backhoes, rollers, high lift skid steers, the parks tractors, trailers. There's about 40 police vehicles, so we're at about 190 vehicles that we maintain.
Is that counting the fire department?
That is counting the fire department, yes.
Paul, do you think, is there anything in particular you send out constantly?
When it gets into specialty things with suspensions, we'll send it to Point Springs, just because they're a little bit more outfitted than we are
What
for it.
about, do you think it would be worth our ability to have something that do front-end alignments?
The problem we have now, Ron, is just
Space.
physical space. You know, those guys are really, you know, you're sitting on top of each
Yeah,
other,
where you
trying to
gonna
get
put it?
things done. You know, our wash bay is sort of integrated with the overflow mechanics bay, especially this time of year, because we're trying to wash trucks in the wintertime, and they're trying to work on trucks, and it's, you know, that's a discussion we're gonna have for capital,
Yeah.
is just the physical space of those guys. They do a great job, though. So, back to,
Well, no, to answer Linda's question, you could probably do a vendor report on those companies that you do have shipped it out, and as the year, next year and 2 years as the
You
years
can
go
compare
on,
the difference.
those vendors won't be used. You could do a vendor report on the units. That's the way
Right.
you would do that.
Yeah.
You would have to give it a little bit of time.
Right.
Yeah, because they're not gonna show us.
Yeah, because, I mean,
right.
we've talked about, we've got to be saving money, not sending out and doing in-house.
We're about, what, 6 months into this now?
they started Memorial Day, basically, as well,
Well, we could like
Even if we do
get
just,
something.
yeah, even if it's year end, I mean, it's just,
But I can
Right.
tell you, even disregard the savings.
the
vehicle-
turnaround is
Turnaround
amazing.
time is incredible.
Yeah,
Well, one of the things about keeping it in-house with any of these functionalities is the span of control.
yeah,
I can control that. You send it out, it's gonna sit on a lot for about a week or two.
right.
Until they decide to get it into work on it, then it's gonna take a little bit longer. You know, so we could get something turned around within a few days. The biggest hang-up with us is actually getting the physical parts. So when GM went on strike, it caused a problem.
Oh,
When Mac went on strike, it caused a problem. It's about getting the parts to us,
yeah,
because you don't always know what you need until you get into it and you tear it apart.
And you don't have a huge
and we're not
part inventory.
stocking, yeah, we're
Yeah,
not
we
like advanced
keep a
stock.
lot of stock of common items for the common vehicles that we
Yeah.
have.
Okay,
So looking at the vehicle maintenance, again, in your spreadsheet it's more in your spreadsheet than it is in your budget book, is the overtime and the equipment repair and maintenance. So when you look at this,
We
the,
passed
the
recycling.
automo, you gotta,
We haven't got-
look at this, automobile repair and maintenance is just what it sounds like, it's automobile, okay? Equipment repair and maintenance is the miscellaneous equipment that I was just talking about.
okay,
Backhoes, high lifts, skid steers, rollers, those types, that's how we sort of segregate those two apart from each
okay.
other.
How's, or why is overtime going up if we have more employees?
There's been a lot of demand recently. Right now, we're sort of handicapped because we have 4 refuse trucks. We have 3 refuse routes. At one time, you could always have a refuse truck that is down. Matter of fact, the other day, we were down 2, so we only had 2 refuse trucks. So the priority every day is a refuse. So if those guys come back from their route and there's something that needs repaired, it gets put in the garage right away to work on it. Sometimes it takes longer beyond a 3 o'clock period when they're done for the day to make sure that's done. So we're trying to really impress upon getting the equipment done and back into the fleet as soon as possible.
Paul, do you find that happening less and less now that the drivers are doing pre-trip checks and post-trip checks?
We are, but we still got aging equipment. And there's nothing that you're gonna do to fix that. But absolutely, I mean, we've gone through and we really emphasized, and again, from the time the mechanics took over, is doing preventive maintenance on all the big dump trucks. We got through just about all of them just before the salt season started. And it was a lot of money, took a lot of time to do that. It's
I
been a
mean,
long
catching
time.
a small problem before it turns into a big
Right, but the
problem.
pre-trip checks will help with that, especially with the refuse trucks. Even the standards we put in with them of coming back at the end of the day, they have to wash their trucks, grease the hoppers, clean the trucks. The maintenance level has gone down. But, the other day, we had a main hydraulic line in the Packer that broke on the route. You just never know that's gonna happen. Now, we do have a new refuse truck coming in probably December. It's in Wisconsin right now, getting a body put on it. So we'll be back to 5. So hopefully, when we have 2 extra, then we can start rotating them through the fleet and try to eliminate those problems. But right now, they run 5 days a week, 52 weeks a year, regardless of anything.
And everybody loves them.
Yes.
It's a good service
Yes, okay,
Monroeville provides.
we're good.
Very good. Next, recycling there, Mr. Hughes.
Recycling, again, just the gasoline lubricant shows
Yep.
we'll have to figure out. There was nothing special there.
Okay.
Animal control.
Animal control, again, just gasoline and lubricants.
Okay.
You don't have any questions there?
Nope.
Okay, now, this is another big one, is the building and property maintenance. Again, in your spreadsheet are dollar values that are different than what's in your budget book. I can look at my cheat sheet for this. So when we talk about building maintenance, we're talking about the municipal center, obviously one we're in, public works facility. The training center has 4 structures, the old stone church, the library, senior center. 2 historical structures on McGinley Road, and what Mayor Griesach referred to earlier. We have 11 restrooms within the parks. We have 16 playground facilities in the parks. And the building maintenance is a responsible party for that. Now, if you go back to the spread, or go back to this flow chart that I gave you, and if you look on the far right side, under building maintenance, and you're gonna count them up as, you got a foreman who splits his time between the community park and the building maintenance. You have a journeyman, you have 2 general maintenance, and 2 custodians. It takes care of all those building maintenance. The demand is more than what we can provide. There's not enough money to cover the cost. There's not enough people to do the work.
Your suggestion?
I think we need to add additional people.
How many?
I think at a minimum, you have to add another journeyman because they're skilled labor. They know plumbing, electrical, they know all the ins and outs of building maintenance. I'm still not convinced that having a foreman split his time between a community park and building maintenance is a way to go.
Well, he does a phenomenal job right now.
Oh, he does.
Both in the roles.
He does. But
But he might just need more help, is what it
But-
sounds like.
again, he's bouncing around. Those foremen are supposed to be out, making sure all the people are getting their work done and assigning job responsibilities. And that person is not even at the public works facility. He's at the community park. The building maintenance people are at the public works facility. There's somewhat of a disconnect there. This year we had, for the major part of this year, we had 4 people on disability for one reason or another. So you take 4 people out of your workforce. So, coming in every day, it's not about knowing what work needs done, it's about where to plug and play people. Because certain jobs you have to have, the recycling truck has to have 2 people. If the custodian calls off here, you gotta put a person in here. If a custodian calls off at the senior center, you gotta put a person there. Then you're taking away from the rest of your workforce, eliminating people from there.
So even if nobody calls off, you still could use somebody else?
In the building maintenance, yes.
Yeah, just.
Yes.
even
If everybody was, if ever, and it's, there's not a day that people aren't calling off.
Right,
I mean, you have 70 people in a department.
right.
I mean, it's just, everybody
It
has
happens.
vacation and personal sick days and so forth. There's not a day that somebody isn't calling off. If everybody was there, you might be able to get the workload done, but that's not the case. In your building maintenance, you just, you emphasized last year, and I applaud you for the vehicle maintenance. You've seen it with your vehicle maintenance. It's the same thing with your building maintenance. I mean, you could walk through here, you could look at this building its own. It's 19 years old. The public works facility is 41 years old.
Wow. Now, the roof we were looking at, Mr. Little, is that in this year's budget?
No, that's coming out of capital. Actually, it's coming out of the
Fund
the
balance.
fund balance.
For
Where it's coming from?
next year?
No, this year.
Oh, okay.
Well, let me qualify that. It depends on when they start. And as I said the other night, my suspicion would be that they may not start until the spring. I
Right.
don't know that, though, but they have under the contract to finish the job by May 1st,
Okay.
so.
Well, Mr. Little, with Mr. Hughes, could maybe you get a figure on what another staff member would cost for the building maintenance?
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily know that having
For either
an
float-
additional person that could be a floater.
Yeah,
in the
that's what I
department,
mean. They
to
could,
go wherever.
I guess
that
it's just another
person
public
needs
works
to go.
employee.
that's
truthfully.
exactly what you're looking for.
Yeah, but if you want them to be a journeyman, you can't.
Well, that's separate. I'm talking separate.
Oh, okay.
Journeyman and maybe a floater to just put that wherever that person needs to go for the day.
You're talking about two people, Paul?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is the journeyman positions paid at a different rate than,
Yes,
Yes.
because they're skilled
That's a
labor.
skilled laborer.
see if you could just get counsel those figures?
Yeah, with benefits and everything, you're talking over 200 grand with benefits. Pension, all that's easily 220, something like that.
My boss tells me, if you're gonna run a railroad, you're gonna run a railroad.
Well,
a big railroad, that's for
I know where you're coming from, because Monroeville's residents like and have come accustomed to the good service that they get. Garbage, police, fire, EMS, clerical, parks and recreation. And the day has come where they're gonna have to pay for it, or tell us what to get rid of, so.
This building alone needs, we know it needs a roof. Does it need windows? It needs, I mean, how long's it been since,
Well, these are operational questions, that too, so it's just taking care of the building.
Yeah.
Taking care of the
On
building is
top of
where
the
you're-
fact
yeah,
that
too.
you still need all this other major work done to these buildings.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
Like it says, and this is the newest of all our buildings.
right.
Like it's like, the Public Works building is 41 years old. Go walk through there sometime. The training center is 15 years old. You got 3 structures over there that they all need work done to them.
Yeah,
And then we pulled you into the library because they own the library building too.
Right.
Although they do the maintenance inside for janitorial services.
Oh, no, the
Contract.
building maintenance, they do any type of work at the library.
Right, and they do but the
Absolutely.
building maintenance for that too. I mean, the janitorial service is something that they
Sub that.
sub
yes.
that out
Yeah.
from the library funding too, but the building maintenance, and that's 1965, I think, 64, 65.
So some food for thought.
Understood.
Okay.
Next item, Mr. Hughes.
well, it needs to be done.
Community park?
All this stuff needs to be,
Okay, the community park,
every time I have someone to look at it.
that's on page 75. Again, on your spreadsheet that I gave you, I increased some of those line items, the front, the gasoline lubricants, Joe. Building equipment repair and maintenance, I increased that value. And
Yeah.
I put in some money for new office furniture for them also.
No questions?
Nope.
Nope.
Next item.
All right, so we're going to jump to page 85 now.
I've had a tough day jumping. Did a lot of jumping.
Community development, again, there's nothing that jumps out at me there other than adding the line item for gasoline and oil. Okay. Next is Planning Commission. And again, that's a small budget, nothing different there. After that is Zoning Hearing Board. Again, there's nothing new there. Next is page 91, which is the Engineering Department. And this is, I guess, more of a question for Josie, is that, so last year, or I should say, in 2019, we have $200,000 in the budget, and that was for, we got a grant to do the traffic signal West Patty Lane, Northern Pike,
Oh, that's right.
okay? So it's a grant, but we have to pay for it up front, and we get reimbursed. So we have to put the money in to cover that cost. Now, in 2020, we got a grant to replace a signal at Wingate and Monroeville Boulevard. So do we add money in here, or do you want to put it in the capital?
No, you could put it in here because basically what's gonna happen, and we've talked about this, your grant expenditures are gonna be offset by
Right,
the revenue,
correct.
as long as it's a
Okay.
dollar for dollar.
So there, in your spreadsheet, I put 300,000, because that's what the grant is
Okay.
for Wingate and
Well, I
Monroe.
think it would be obvious that the expenditure on the expenditure side it's getting offset by a grant.
Yeah.
I mean, somebody that looks at it's gonna say $300,000 is going out for whatever. Is it gonna be easy to tell that we're also getting that $300,000?
Well, maybe not looking at the budget, but if you're looking at our financial statements, you wouldn't
What
even
if
see
you
it
leave it like
because
this?
they're
Shows the
gonna
revenue.
offset.
Josie, what if you leave it worded like this is, where it says grant expenditures? You know that that's grant money coming in, so you would know that there would be another line item on the other side, like a pass-through, like we talked about with the fire department.
Right. And, you know, in some cases, and I really should run this by the auditor, but, it is, what some municipalities have done is put that in, take it out of your budget and leave it like in a balance sheet type account. And then you monitor that and because you're expecting money, so you're gonna spend the money, the 300,000, you may not get anything this year, but then in the following year, you'll get that 300,000 or however long
Right.
it takes for that grant.
It wouldn't show up in your income and expenses.
Right,
It would just show up on the balance sheet as you'd have accounts receivable as a grant.
right.
And you'd have a liability also as the expenditure's going out. And that's one way of doing it. And we've talked about this in-house here. I've done it in other places where I set up a grant fund, which is on the income and expense side, and it's a separate fund in each department. If you're getting a grant,
I was gonna say, you'd have to do that with Park and Rec. and-
right, exactly, and it carries over. So if you want to see any kind of a grant, you go to the grant fund where grants now, grants carry over from year to year. A lot of them last 3 years,
Yeah.
if you have a decent-sized project. So
Well, could you do that as a whole separate section then?
If you had attached.
That we could look at, yeah.
Funding.
Yes,
we can, I mean, it's
Do it like that.
6 of one, half dozen of the other.
right.
No, but it would be nice
But if you went
to
in
turn
there,
a
you
tab
could
that
see
says
the
grants.
Wingate Light
Right.
project is being paid for by.
Yeah,
We could do that.
Exactly.
yeah, that would be
We
nice
had-
to be able to see
and
that.
Easily understandable.
Yes,
What happens you legally, under the GFO, even legally, you can't put grant money into the general fund, as we've been doing. And you keep track of it according to the line item, but you can have also more of a tendency to spend that money, and you're not spending it on the grant. Because if you have and I've gone through this personally, if you have a switchover in administration, a decent size switchover in administration, and the previous person has been spending the money, and because of political reasons, the money for the grant is not being spent, then all of a sudden, a year or two goes by, and the grant isn't done, but you've spent the grant money.
Well,
And that has happened in more than
well,
one
I'm saying
place.
if you had a grant tab here and it said $300,000, it's, you give the year that it's expected to be expended. You say
The department.
Wingate Light Project, and you do that with all the grant money, it's easier for anybody, including the layperson, to track, to make sure that that expenditure
Right.
is being used for grants.
And it's easy for us to look under just grants and see what grants are out there, what, you know, what we've received,
That
what
was the
it's spent
question I was
on.
gonna ask. How many grants do we have?
Yeah, see, I don't know,
Right now, we probably have, most of them, a lot of them are park and rec
Right.
right now. A lot of them are park and rec we have.
but it'd be nice to go like this, oh, and
I usually get one a year, it's typically, and they're typically traffic
Even if
signal
there's two
related.
or three on there, was the elevator in the library a grant?
not
Well,
for
that
us.
was, not to us, that was separate from the Keystone State Grant that the library got. We did not have any.
We didn't manage
We
that.
didn't- we didn't put any money.
No, but
into
we've
that.
got money for Park and Rec, I know for sure, for equipment and,
Trail project.
Well, no, we just got the $75,000.
Right,
for
Paul just talked
Evergreen.
about it.
That one right there. Paul was talking about that one. We also have grants pending to pave the trail up in Community
I was
Park.
gonna say, didn't we get some road improvement grants too?
No.
The sewer system over in Garden City,
but the lining,
wasn't the stormwater,
Oh, yes, it was a CITF
I
grant.
said lining, I didn't say
Was-
no,
it was a
I said
storm sewer
lining.
lining.
Oh, what was that for?
That's what we lined the storm sewer.
was that
Lining.
Dahlia?
Oh, that's what,
Look
oh,
at
that was for the
that.
storm sewer.
Yeah, that was a
Oh,
CITF.
No, that was
The
for-
lining.
not road paving. That was
But
for
anyhow,
the
can we
storm
look
sewer.
at doing that then, so we can have a tab that says grants, so we can actually look and see what grants are
Yeah,
actually?
we can do that, yeah.
Okay, great.
Do you feel that's cleaner? Both of you?
I think, like I said, it's six one, half dozen of the
It's
other.
more
It's like,
open. You
Well,
don't
we,
have to
we
look
like
through
the
whole
six
budget.
instead of the half dozen.
I think it's easier that way, Josie, maybe than a balance sheet. I mean, I get the balance sheet, I understand that.
Right, but
totally.
then you're gonna miss the revenue expense.
Right.
What I would think we should do to make it clean is put it in the back with special funds. I
Yeah,
agree with
Yeah,
you.
unquestionably.
Yeah.
Because it's not really a part of your general fund.
Right.
It's not, you know,
It's a pass-through. It's
Oh,
a,
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, now, and it's different, being a person that manages a grant, okay, a 5-year one, which then has rollovers that, you know, all those different parameters, and they're different than the other one, and so on and so forth.
Right.
So then maybe that'll help qualify that as well. I didn't know if we were in that same, you know, same level
Haven't we
position.
recently received some grants from the state representatives or something? I thought the police department got a grant. Anyway,
well, I
Neither
like
here
it,
nor
I
there.
like it where you say back in special funds,
Let's look at doing that.
yeah.
And
Mr.
then,
Hugus,
yeah,
next item.
Sure. That's it for engineering. You guys have any questions? If not, then we go to the next page with traffic signals. So 6110, like I said before, 6110 is a budget code that we used to have. We took it off, we put it back in. That's why everything's zeroed out except for this coming budget year is there. So Ron, to answer your question, if you scroll down to 2609, there's money in there
For the repair.
for repairs of traffic signals.
what I was trying to tell council was is that I had brought up about possibly replacing the Opticom system because of its aging and having difficulty getting parts. When in fact, Mr. Hugus kind of squared me away on that after the meeting, in that when Opticom first came out, it was made by 3M.
Yes, it was a 3M product.
And then 3M sold it, and there was a difficult short period there of getting parts because 3M sold it to,
Well, we use a Tomar product now.
yeah. So they're not having any problems with it, getting replacement parts and stuff now, so I don't believe we're gonna need any replacement.
Right, well, I think that what you're looking, the new technology is to do it activated by radio. radio wave. The technology we use is by light emitting, so it's a line of sight.
But we don't need to do the big upgrade like Mr. Harvey had suggested, not right away,
You're not dragging me into those waters.
not right away. Well, I just want Mr. Little to get back up off the floor, because when Ron brought it up, I think he almost had a stroke.
Well, there's also neighboring
There's easy
communities.
Set the
policy,
You're speechless.
well, I'm not
Okay.
gonna say it, not in public.
Neighboring
Okay.
communities that are coming in with their ambulances, they're not having any problems getting to hospitals and using the Opticom.
I don't necessarily know that they even use it.
Well, yeah, that was actually a question I was gonna go with.
I can tell you-
A number of people are in the area on the optical-based flashing light have in fact, because of coming to these
I
hospitals,
can tell you
have in fact
Murrayville and
installed.
Plum both use optical.
That's,
I know when we originally set it up in the early 90s, it was just for Monroeville only.
right.
Right.
It seems to have been expanded.
Well, and then the standard changed where everything, it got more standardized for that
Right.
piece of it. So the question is then, with the new piece that we're talking about in terms of the radio wave of that, not that, it's not our responsibility for anyone else that's coming in, of course, it certainly is set for us. What about those that have the optical piece of it? We need to let some of those other folks out as a courtesy,
Yes, it
let
wouldn't
them
work
know,
anymore.
hey, that doesn't work anymore, or is there?
Well, the radio transmitting, when we talked about it, Ron, I thought it was about $1 million to do that.
Do you have to change in the vehicles as well?
Yes.
Is there something, so there's a two-part here.
Yeah.
But the
On
the
each-
point of the story, though, is that what we currently have is
It's
functioning
working, and
properly.
we're good for now.
And we have parts that we can get to fix these things, and everything's functioning properly, and
Correct.
if
that
that
was
changes,
good-
then we need to address it.
That's good
But Right
news,
now,
though.
things are working just fine.
Yes, good news.
All right,
it every
and then
time.
you go to your third page. And you will have to refer to your special fund section, your special fund tab.
Special funds all the way in the back.
Special fund, page 7, which has to do with the pollution control flood reduction.
Oops, sorry.
Probably the only thing of note there, when I talked to Tim about it already, is that the fees are not 3,600,000, it's 2 million, or 3,200,000.
Oh,
So it should, the actual revenue is actually the same as it would be last year, which is 3,233,000.
All right.
now the secondary letters have gone out, right?
Yes,
Just-
ma'am.
Just this question, okay.
Yes. So what you'll see within this, well, if you look at page 7, you'll see a lot of additional line items that were included that were not in last year's. They were things that were maybe oversights on our part originally, but, to sort of parallel the other budgets, we added these line items in there to make sure everything is accounted for.
Good.
I mean, so that budget is what it is. You gotta live within that dollar amount.
Yeah.
How many employees?
Right now, we are at, if you look on the page here, Doc, 7. We're at 7, and we have 1 to 2 more slated this year, in 2020, or I should say next year, 2020.
So you have 9 budgeted.
I'm sorry.
You already have 9 budgeted for.
Yes,
You're not adding more.
no,
Okay.
All the vehicles in yet?
no. No, it's,
Are they all accounted for in the
We're
19
doing this at
budget?
one time.
no, so we had spanned it over a 3-year period for the vehicles. The 2 dump trucks are not here. They should be here. The first one should be coming next week, which is causing a little bit of a discomfort because we had to take all the ones back and put salt spreaders on them. So we only have like really one that we could really use at this point, a big one, big dump truck. We have a small dump truck. But in 2020, we'll be buying a sewer jet, which are,
Sewer jet.
yeah, $400,000. It's a big dollar item. But that was already slated to be in the second year of the program.
That was the one we were talking about with the winch on the front so they can lift the grate.
Yes,
Yes.
yes, correct.
We have a refuse truck coming in too.
The refuse truck should be here in December. And then I go to Wisconsin to get the body on it.
But the two trucks that you're talking about that are due in, are they budgeted for?
Yes, they were already allocated in 2019. Yes.
I have no other questions.
And, you know, the thing you gotta remember, this program, obviously, we kicked it off at the beginning of the year. We really didn't get rolling until July part of the year.
Right.
But, you know, even since that point, it has made a lot of progress.
Very good. Any other questions for Mr. Hugus this evening?
None.
Paul, nice job.
Thank you.
Yeah, good job, Paul. A lot to take care of.
Yeah.
Council, we're going to move over to Human Resources. Joe Sedlak.
I can't be expected to follow Paul and Doug. I mean, that's,
Spreadsheets or,
I'm just here to basically, Mark Forster stole my thunder on Tuesday, by giving you all the insurance numbers. So I'm just here if you have any questions about that. And I just want to let you know, we're going to adjust the numbers as the final premiums come in from Mark. So they'll be adjusted down most likely, once he gets those numbers. Just wants to let you know on the workers' comp end, we've had kind of a bad year this year. We've had 43 claims, which is up from 25 in 2018. And 8 claims resulted in lost time, and 4 resulted in substantial surgeries. And we're talking guys that will be off probably 6 months from their injuries. And these are both workers' comp, they're all workers' comp injuries, in fact.
Are these figures taking the new report that the insurance?
Yeah, yeah. So, property and liability, and we've been doing really well for the last 3 years, and that's why those numbers have come down, because it goes on a 3-year cycle. And some of our bigger claims have come off the books, and so we're doing well on that end. But comp, we're gonna get hit the next year or so because of these claims, and because comp goes by payroll.
Right.
And as you can see from Paul and Doug with the officers and the public works and MS4 people, our payroll's gonna go way up here. So that means our comp's gonna go up as well,
And that'll be next year, we'll get hit with that.
yeah.
Yep.
Plus, we get audited every year.
Yeah.
So we give them numbers, and then the comp company comes in and looks at our W-2s. And if it's over what we put in, then we get billed accordingly for that. So this year it was $20,000 that we had to pay extra just because we added payroll. That's all it is. So that's all I'm here for, and,
and everything was fine with the insurance presentation?
yeah, Mark's still working on the numbers, trying to knock them down a little further, and, as soon as I get them, we'll give them to you and get them to Josie and adjust the numbers in the budget.
Great.
Very good.
Thank you.
Okay?
Thank you.
Nice job, Joe.
Yeah, just to follow up on that, I thought the numbers that Mark gave the other night were
Great.
pretty good. Usually you do get numbers from an insurance broker the initial year. Usually they are pretty good. We'll see what happens next year too, as things move on here.
Yeah, it looked like it was a savings about $48,000.
Yeah, about close
the
to
year.
So he actually
$50,000.
found somebody to take the fireman's workman's comp,
Yeah,
other than that?
that's,
Our hope is, that
Yeah.
it's a company called Encova,
yeah.
that they're gonna take both, which will be great news for me.
Yeah.
Great news for the fire departments that we won't have to deal with SWIFT anymore, because they're a nightmare. And, so if they do that, we have one panel for everybody. It'll be nice and easy to file claims and easy to administrate too.
Very good.
Hopefully we don't have to file that many.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Last but certainly not least, there, Mr.
Oh,
Little.
yeah,
our municipal
I'm the
manager.
last one, and everybody wants to get out when I go, and that's okay, understandable.
Take your time.
Yeah. Okay, mayor and municipal council
What
for,
page?
page
This-
9.
And also this, Ron,
Expenditures.
this was handed out to us. Right? Do you guys have it?
Page
On our
9?
desk.
It's over.
Page 9 in the expenditures.
Where's yours?
Mr. Little.
Right here.
There it
Okay, salaries for the mayor and council remains the same. You get $3,000 each per year.
Like it or not.
I think the mayor gets a little more, if I'm not mistaken.
does.
I'd have to look in the borough code.
He does.
Salary and wages of temporary employees, that's for summer help and the T-shirts. We decided 2 years ago, each elected official would get 3, and that has worked out really well, I think.
I think so too. I think all the departments are very happy as well.
Right. And traveling expenses, that's for mileage, meals, and part of that is for the ALOM conference, as is the seminar expenditures, as I have listed there on the sheet there, for the ALOM conference, and also additional banquets you go to that, like maybe the Water Buffalo banquet that's coming up.
Yeah.
That Mr. Arsenko is requesting everybody attend. Dues and memberships reduced a little bit. This is for the Boroughs Association, the COG, the Chamber, and mainly those 3 right there, other dues and memberships. Some expenses were I put in other accounts, and as I go through here, I'll mention that. General office supplies, reduced that just based on what the past expenditures have been, reduced that $250. Food, which is where your water comes from here and everything, it's in the refrigerator, cups, beverages, coffee, and also for the 4th of July, and different dinners that you have, for instance, with the COG, that is a little bit of an increase of $150. Gift grants and memorials, $17,200. That's a $2,700 increase, and that's mainly due to the fireworks, as I think JJ mentioned to everybody when he presented the contract to everybody, and that's an increase. I think it was a 3-year contract to lock it in, but it was nonetheless an increase as everything else goes up. Memorial Day Parade, that was increased 2 years ago from $2,500 to $5,000. TV COG ALOM sponsorship, that's a couple $100. And there's $12,500, as everybody knows, from Visit Monroeville that comes in for the fireworks, and that's shown in the revenue. That's why that $14,500 was a little bit lower last year. That's mainly due to the fireworks increase. Any questions on mayor and municipal council expenditures?
Nope.
Nope.
Okay, municipal manager, as I mentioned in my budget message, the main increases in there is for an assistant manager position, which I mentioned as far as succession planning. And I'm not looking to retire anytime soon, but I think that there should be a succession planning started. And not only for a succession planning, I do think that a community of this size needs an assistant manager. And just to highlight, and I have a job description for you attached to it, just to highlight some of the parts of the job description that I put together here. This position, and not right away, this position would be, after everybody on this dais is probably gone, would be kind of an operations manager on the day-to-day detail in moving forward. A lot of other municipalities that are just as large as us and not larger operate this way, and I've talked with other managers, other elected officials in my career, and it works out rather well. The first line item under essential duties and responsibilities serves as a day-to-day operation manager of the municipality under the direction and guidance of the municipal manager for all the departments. And obviously carries out special projects for analysis and report preparation. An example is that, and Joe does a lot of this right now, and he's human resource director. We do contract negotiations, and as we were doing police contract negotiations, doing analysis as we did last year for council asked for a certain question on that, an assistant manager would do that, and you'd have your human resource director could concentrate on different policies for human resources moving into the future. Moving down here, I also have this, and it serves as also the municipal right-to-know officer. I think the assistant manager should do that. And also can do also grant, there's a lot of grants out there that I think we could be applying for. It's just a matter of somebody being able to do it and research it. So those are some of the highlights, and you can look through the job description at your, at your leisure. And if you have any questions, you can call me, or if you have any questions of me right now. But I really think the position is not just for a succession planning, for somebody to move into the manager's position, even after, if you agree with this, then even after this person is here, and then he's here for a couple of years, I think then that person and that council should hire an assistant manager. I think there's a lot of communities that have assistant managers that are smaller than us. And Wilkins, I think, is hiring one. Plum Borough has one. Moon Township has two. Cranberry has three. Now, and Cranberry's not that much larger than we are. They're not. In fact, they're not. They're about the same operation as we are. So I think it's a position that's needed. Also underneath there, and the reason why the line item for salaries under manager has increased is because the receptionist, Holly, I've taken her, she usually is in the finance, and I've taken her and put her under because I think the receptionist should be there. Now, her duties are not going to change at all. Her duties are going to be the same. But I believe she should come underneath the man, and I think that's the way it used to be going back maybe 15, 20 years ago. Also under, which is 2110 code, this is a project that is languished, but we still have a little bit to do on it. And I talked to Josie, and she's correct. This has been moved down to under contract services 2730. And we get down there. That's also including another aspect that I mentioned during the during my budget message. But let me go through all these different little line items here. Traveling expenses, I reduced that $2,100 because I think a lot of the stuff that came under traveling expenses should be under seminar expenses. And the only thing traveling expenses should be is mileage I get when I'm in my own car doing, out doing things for the municipality, and that's only $600. Seminar expenses, $3,600, that's for the ALOM conference, for the ICMA, International City Managers Association conference I go to each year, the PELRAS, the labor conference that Joe and I go to, that covers that right there. The building, which is what is office repair, we have $2,000 in there, that's for office equipment, but I would like to change that line item to office equipment and repair, and possibly utilize this for carpet cleaning and small building repairs, which did not occur in 2018. We had all of the carpets cleaned 2 years ago, if you remember.
Yes.
Now, the question, when we get into the capital part when we get to the capital improvement program, the question that we're going to have to be discussing, just on carpet, for instance, do you want to have it cleaned? Do you want to have it replaced? Do you want part of it cleaned, part of it replaced? And that's a question that I think right now, just to touch on that a little bit, I think that maybe you get it cleaned, and then maybe the latter part of the capital improvement program in the 5th year, quite possibly, have it replaced. And maybe replace it piecemeal as you move along each year and don't have a big expenditure, but in 2022, you replace some of the carpet where it's more worn, for instance, up in engineering. And I've thought about, I talked to our custodian. He had an idea, not only up in engineering, and I talked to Paul about it too, and down in the police department, instead of having the tile, having an epoxy painted floor that's aesthetically nice.
Yeah.
I mean, nothing that looks like you're in a
Institution.
exactly, an
Right.
institution, but something that's aesthetically nice, but have it epoxy, because the building inspectors come in. Actually, when the building was designed, inspection should be where the tax office is, I think. And the tax office should be upstairs, is what I think. That's my opinion. Because you have your building, or the building inspection should be downstairs a little bit. But I can understand a police department being downstairs. So I think that building inspection, you can come up the back way. But that's neither here nor there. That's already done. Now, the contracted services, as I mentioned during my budget message, I put $15,000 into the budget because I think we need an advocate for economic development in this community. And I think it's somebody that I should be working with. And also to work with Visit Monroeville on this, and I've talked to Sean Logan about this. I think we need to be more proactive with people who are looking at Monroeville, or more importantly, people who are not looking at Monroeville. And they should be looking at Monroeville. And the example I gave is IT, that's not at Bakery Square and places like that. Bakery Square is not going to be able to hold all that, I believe, and I think they're going to be looking outward. Right now, where are they looking? Findlay Township. Yeah, okay, it's close to the airport. I get that. But my mantra is here, why not Monroeville? We have the Westinghouse building down there that's just been purchased by a new group out of New York. And I do think we have a lot of amenities here, Tech One Park. I think we have to start looking and being proactive for people, and I put really, it's a modest amount of money in there to start that going. And if council wants to approve that in there, then I'll keep you more apprised of moving ahead. And I've talked with Sean about it, and he's tentatively maybe setting up a meeting with some people that I can talk to developers and saying, what are you looking for in Monroeville? What do you want in Monroeville? Get the perspective of what a developer, of what a business person, what they want. What does Monroeville have that they don't know? What is Monroeville lacking that we could do to accommodate them? I can go into examples, but I'm not going to do it here publicly, and I'll talk to council, about that individually. And Sean and I talked about it a little bit on the phone after when I presented the budget to council. Moving on, well, as I mentioned, general code publishers, there's an amount that has to be done, and that's been languishing for a couple years now. I have in there about the economic development advisor, $15,000. Dues and membership, increased costs for dues and memberships, APMM, which is Pennsylvania Municipal Managers, Western Pennsylvania Municipal Managers, PELRAS, and also the American Planning Association. Office supplies, there's been an increase in shredding costs. That's why that's kicked that up $1,000. Magazines and books, I've reduced that down to $800. Food, increased that $200. That's for the Christmas lunch and the Joe Sedlak cleanup day. Office furniture and equipment, probably need maybe some new file cabinets. Any questions on that from council on anything?
No, you answered the only one I had.
Okay, legal services, nothing really has changed there. Last year, we put in Sharon's cost under legal. It was under mine, but we put it in where I think it should be under legal, because that's stenographic services. We put that in there. We'll continue that this year. For the solicitor, retainer costs, tax appeals, right to knows, things are outside his retainer. That amount's in there, and also you $20,000 for ancillary. I'm going to call ancillary for different labor questions that we've had. Mostly we've used that with Campbell, Durant, and Beatty. We're not going to be entering into any kind of arbitration that we did 4 years ago. So that's a good thing. But I think $20,000 is easily needed for outside, different kind of labor attorney.
Can it just say outside legal services? Doesn't have to be labeled as labor, does it, or that
No,
particular
no,
law
that
group?
could be anything.
Yeah,
That could be
okay.
anything.
All right, so it's just a general little
Right.
20 grand just in case?
Right.
Okay.
Okay, and the last one, which is on the page 101 in the back, I always include this in there as far as transfers, and I mentioned this in my budget message, with a $2.5 million transfer into the capital, which is more. But as I have mentioned at the budget message, when I introduced the budget, as we move along with this capital improvement program, and we're going to be discussing that probably more than we're discussing the regular budget, because council here understands a lot. You've been through the process. The capital might be a little bit more, might take a little bit longer. It's going to probably take at least 2 meetings, I would say. And I think you're going to have to, what we could do is reopen the budget, advertise that. You're going to have to pass the capital improvement program under ordinance. And I think what you may have to do is, you can open up the regular budget, the operating budget, to transfer more money, you can do that. And I think that's probably going to have to be done, because the last capital improvement program, 5-year, it was $16 million in total, and I don't see anything changing, and probably will even be more. You're talking about body cameras. You're talking about, that hasn't even been entertained in the past, different things. So there's a lot of things like that that are going to probably, we're talking about a security system here. That hasn't been talked about when we started the other capital improvement program back in 2011. So, any questions?
Good work. No,
Okay.
thank you.
All right, that is, one final comment from me is all the changes here that I'll be talking to Josie with tomorrow, that obviously is going to change
Our books.
the fund balance, as far as, obviously, there's going to be more money used out of the fund balance, right, Josie? And so that will change. And it's money well spent. It's there.
Well,
and
you'll
that's
send
what-
us a report on that, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
and,
Are you gonna change our books?
well,
Yes.
they will
Does
be
that-
changed. That'll, yeah,
Can we
we'll,
leave
I'll,
them
them
in again.
tonight?
no, not tonight, no. That will be before the December meeting. We're not going to change anything
But I'm
tonight.
here now.
No, not now. I mean, Josie's we gotta sit there and decipher all this and
Yeah.
change, a grant fund in there
Why
and,
can't we have it done?
No, I
Hang
just
on
wanna
to
leave
it a
my
little
book
bit
now.
longer.
yeah.
But council, yes, we have, any other
Wait.
discussion? Council, any other discussion of any of the items we went over this evening, or
Yeah,
about the
thank you.
budget in general? Very
Thank you to
good.
everybody for their efforts, much appreciated.
Yes, Mr. Little, thank you. Great job for the budget. Josie, you're the only one standing here as
I
well.
know.
Everyone else.
They all
whispered
bailed
out.
out.
Man.
Yeah. But thank you for what you're doing, and also for all the department heads that presented tonight and presented the other day. We also have our cameraman here, cameramen. One of them, let's get a camera over here, because we have a birthday. One is spending his
Birthday
birthday.
guy.
Happy birthday to Jay Sedlak, one of our cameramen here, spending his birthday here at the exciting budget hearing here at Monroeville. Great job. And then we do have to just open it up here for public comment if no one is here in the audience, but if there's anyone that would like to comment, now's your
In the
chance.
audience.
Somebody might want to text in.
Yep, we're going to close that portion of the meeting. Council will just continue these discussions at the December 3rd work session meeting. The soonest that they could vote and pass this budget would be on the December 10th council meeting. However, if council requires more time, we could always set a special meeting to pass the budget. We have until the end of December to do so, but hopefully we can get this done at the regular meeting in December. Yes, there's some changes that we need to go over. For the listening audience, once again, we're at a $35 million and change budget. It is a large railroad, a lot of great services that we provide here for the community, and we have to continue to do so. And it's, the most important job that council members do is to pass a budget and make sure money is allocated for the community. So with that, I want to seek a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you and good night.